Yo, what up, TCK Potters? Welcome back to the program. I'm your host, Sky Guasco, episode 386 of the Candlestick Kids Fantasy Football Podcast. Hope you enjoyed the NFL draft. I hope your team filled all of their necessary fills. I know not a lot of teams did that. A lot of teams reached. A lot of teams did get some gems. Some other teams not so much. I'm joined with the entire cast this evening. We'll bring them in just a second. Lucas, Dwayne, and Bobby joining us tonight. We got a full house. Very excited to bring you the NFL Draft Fantasy Football winners and losers. We have probably a long show. I'm going to preemptively assume that tonight. So I want to get into our sponsors right off the bat. I usually break them into the show, but I want to get to them right away, give them a shout out, and then we're just going to rock it for the rest of the evening. Let's go first to the Jersey Jungle. Y'all know how we feel about the Jersey Jungle. We've been repping them a few months now on Instagram at the Jersey Jungle. Use the promo code TCK to receive 10% off of 1 or 2 jerseys, 15% off of 3+ jerseys. I was just reached out to by a good friend of the show asking for rookie jerseys already. So I reached out to them and I asked if rookie jerseys were available. I would like to get myself a Trey Lance 49ers jersey. I might want to get my boy De'Ami Brown Washington football team jersey. So I asked if those are ready. They are in the works right now, and they should be ready in the next couple of weeks. So hold tight on jerseys for rookies. Otherwise, they are ready to go. Every sport out there available. Hit up the Jersey Jungle on Instagram at the Jersey Jungle. My man Trenton will take care of you. They do all sports, custom, home and away. Let them know that TCK sent you and save 10% and 15% off of 1 to 3+ jerseys. Next up, I want to give a shout out to Bomb Banana Hot Sauce. Yo, first of all, they just had an article blasted up in Forbes magazine. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, the real deal, Forbes magazine. Look, 4 buddies at the University of Michigan. Shouts out to our Michigan family in the house. We'll get Dweez on in just a second. Go Blue. 4 roommates in the state of Michigan at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor created a hot sauce, and it is banana-based, not banana-flavored. That's very, very important. Check out Bomb Banana Hot Sauce, new sponsor of the program. Promo code TCK for 10% off of your order. Hit up seekthespice.com for Bomb Banana Hot Sauce. Y'all know how it is. I'm going to rep them here real quick. Boom. Bomb Banana. This is the Muy Muy, the red tag, a little bit hotter. They also have the white that is more of a bland flavor. Absolutely delicious. I had all sorts of spreads for the draft this last weekend. Had Bomb Banana Hot Sauce all over it. Absolutely delicious. Once again, Bomb Banana Hot Sauce, seekthespice.com for 10% off of your order. All right, we are breaking down the fantasy football winners and losers from the NFL draft. So without any further ado, let's bring in the squad. What's up, boys? How was the weekend? How's everyone feel about their team? I know we got a lot to cover tonight, but yo, I was pretty jazzed just to have the energy and the momentum of football. I know we just ended in February. It's only been a couple weeks, but people like us who have this stuff in our bloodstream felt like I was getting a little bit stagnant. So I'm excited to have the draft. Way pumped on my number 3 pick, which we'll get into with my Niners. We have a Bears fan, a Broncos fan, a Giants fan. Quickly, 30 seconds or less, how did everyone feel about their squad? Lucas, we'll start with you, buddy.
Well, Dwayne got the quarterback that I wish we took at 9. Hopefully
he got the quarterback I wish we took at 3. So we'll just throw it out there.
I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully we passed on him to take another quarterback out of Dwayne's division, maybe making them the runner-up, the favorite to win the division. We'll see though. But overall, I think pretty good with the draft that we had.
Luis, how about you?
Look, I believe this Thursday I'm gonna do a deep dive into the Bears draft for you guys, so I won't get too far into it. I'll say that I told all my buddies I was watching the draft with ahead of time that if we traded up, I'd be real pissed off. So I'll leave it at that for now. If you want to know how I really feel, okay, tune into the Thursday podcast. I don't know if I think we're recording that Thursday night, so it won't be live Thursday, but I will lay it out for you. Okay, I will put it out on the line so you can all just soak in my feels. Okay,
I love it. And that team that they traded with, Bobby, how do you feel about how the trade went down? There was a lot to move David Gettleman is usually not one to trade in drafts, let alone back and collect picks. And how do you feel about the Giants' moves?
I think the good thing is having 2 first-round picks next year. And if Daniel Jones can't get it done with the weapons he has, hey, this is a good year for him to know. So if we can't, we'll have some capital next year maybe to move up, like kind of similar to what the Bears did this year. So I like it from the sense that giving Daniel Jones more weapons is fine with me. And then if he doesn't work out, at least we have some ammo in 2022 to trade up and potentially get another franchise quarterback.
I like that. It's a great squad. And I love the Niners draft overall. Of course, I was stoked to get Trey Lance pretty much because he isn't Mac Jones. But I did want Justin Fields, but Trey Lance, look, I've been saying it for about 5 episodes since the draft here. I think Trey Lance is an excellent complimentary prize if Justin Fields was your number 1 guy. Trey Lance is excellent. And I've been saying this, and how do you guys feel about this comp? I've been saying for a while, if Trey Lance can start as Colin Kaepernick, smaller school, coming in, rushing ability, bigger arm, playmaking ability, but kind of raw, start as Colin Kaepernick and turn into Dak Prescott, that would be a super win for me. Do you guys think that's fair?
Shooting for the fences, why not? I mean, I think he's a stud. I think he's got the skill set to make it happen. Why not? Why not hope for the stars?
I just think that this team has everything going for him. I mean, like between Shanahan to the weapons. I mean, if Debo and now you can stay healthy and Kittle, forget about it. I mean, he's got probably one of the better weaponry in football. And on top of that, a great run game. So I think if he can't make it work with Shanahan and all those weapons, then I don't think you want him in the first place.
All right. Well, let's talk about those 49ers, man. We'll start with that. So once again, we are breaking down the winners and losers for fantasy purposes from the NFL draft this last weekend. We are going to take the time on Thursday and twice next week to break down every single team in every single division and run through all of these names again. So maybe some deeper names on further podcasts. So if there's maybe a 6th, 7th, a 5th rounder or something that doesn't get brought up now, we will dive into those names later on in this series. But for today, we're talking about the more prominent guys to get started right away, if not maybe next year in a dynasty format. Again, Dweez and Lucas usually lean a little more dynasty. Bobby and I lean a little bit more redraft. And of course, everybody is playing all of them. So boys, let's jump into this here. We're going to start with the 49ers. We'll go through the NFC West first. We'll start with my Niners here. We're just going to go around the horn very quickly. I would like each one of you to give me your winner from their draft overall, whether it's the team itself, another person on the team, maybe it's, kind of a dark horse. I have kind of some silly ones just to mix it up. So let's go around the horn here, and we'll just keep it easy. We'll go Dweez, Bobby, Lucas to keep the order here. Give me a winner and maybe 2 sentences, and then we'll get into the losers after that for the 49ers.
Okay, before I do, I want to apologize to you and the people if I'm distracted during this show. You just said I lean dynasty. I have 3 dynasty rookie drafts going on right now on my phone, okay? I just traded away the 108 and Devonta Smith to get some stuff. I'll tell you guys about it later. But
no, but that counts as your 2 sentences. He's done.
Yeah. Also, while you were talking, I went and bought some Bomb Banana. I didn't realize they were a sponsor, so now I got to try this stuff. Me and my wife love to do some hot sauce challenges, so I'll let you know. I'll let you know how it went. So 49ers, my winner for the 49ers is Trey Lance for a couple of reasons. He was the 2nd or 3rd, maybe best quarterback in the class as far as I'm concerned. He got drafted as such. Love to see that happen. I also think that this is a big win for character and intelligence in general in the NFL. Too often at the top of drafts, those things get ignored for athleticism. This dude is a really great kid, and I'm super glad that he got rewarded for that, because that's why he was taken by the Niners. They loved talking to him.
Totally agree. Bobby?
I actually had Trey Lance too, not to repeat everything he just said.
We're going to repeat a lot of these. All good.
Yeah, well, the reason why is just flat. We talked about this on the podcast last week. It's just the fact that as a young rookie, you don't fall into situations like this where you have a running game, you have an elite offensive line, great weapons, and a great offensive play caller. So from a dynasty standpoint, I mean, I guess the question as a follow-up is how high are you guys willing to take Trey Lance in a single QB?
Lucas?
Yeah, the ADP, I don't really know yet. We haven't had enough data, I guess, or pull back yet to go from there. I think I'd probably just say the 2 receivers. I don't really know if they were going to add a receiver hypothetically, but the running backs they added didn't don't scare me enough to take away touches from the receivers. So I think Ayuk and Debo definitely won in this draft, and obviously the quarterback upgrade by a lot, I think. So they should be pretty good values at their current ADP.
That's exactly what I had, Lucas, in general, was the 49er weapons. Jimmy Garoppolo was able to distribute the ball, but Trey Lance offers a lot more mobility, another weapon and something to worry about on offense because he is going to be mobile. Hopefully we get Jalen Hurd, man. I put out a tweet on the other day, and people have been jumping my bones. Look, Jalen Hurd, I still say, and I'm going to keep saying it, the kid hasn't played yet. I still think he's the best wide receiver on the roster, straight up, and he hasn't played yet. If we get Jalen Hurd back, we got Kittle healthy this year, Debo, Ayuk, yada, yada, all the 12 running backs. I think we're going to be in a good spot. How about some losers really quickly here? Go around the horn once again for the 49ers. Dewey's, we'll start with you.
It's got to be Raheem Mostert, and to a lesser degree or a much higher degree, Jeff Wilson. 2 running backs drafted here, Trey Sermon in the 3rd round, and my guy Elijah Mitchell out of Louisiana Lafayette, man. 2 really good running backs that will challenge. As the offseason they were dumping a bunch of running backs off of this team, you thought there'd be some more volume there. These guys are telling us that Shanahan wants to continue to do what he's always done. Too much to go around, even for the depth. And these 2 young kids are talented young guys.
I agree. Bobby?
Yeah, I think it's also the Trey Lance factor. We see a lot of mobile quarterbacks are not as willing to check down because they're willing to just take off and scramble. So that's going to be less passing volume for running backs, even more. And we saw last year it was Mostert and Wilson. Wilson started picking up a little bit. McKinnon had a nice role early on in the season. But if Trey Lance becomes the quarterback, he might be less inclined to check down. That could be just another hit, and now you have adding another running back in the backfield. It's a lot of crowdedness, so I would definitely go to the running backs as well.
Lucas, anyone other than the running backs?
I think it is the running backs. I think honestly though, I think it makes this offense very condensed in who you can actually draft. Meaning you're going to take Lance, the 2 receivers, and the tight end. Honestly, Lance might not even be worth it in a 1 quarterback league. I'd imagine there's going to be a lot of Jimmy's our starter buzz throughout the year. All that stuff that always happens. So they're really not really any other losers outside of the running back.
Yeah, I just put Jimmy G for the obvious reasons. His time is up in San Francisco. Sure. He's been injured, and Trey Lance will be the guy eventually. Trey Lance is not going to be the week 1 starter unless Jimmy is gone after June 1st. There's some contract stuff, which I've been over. I'm not going to do it on this show. But if they do get rid of Jimmy, which I don't think they do, Trey Lance is obviously the number 1. If they keep him, I think Jimmy will at least play until he either gets injured or – look, the first time Jimmy throws a bad pick 6 – the city's going to be calling for Trey Lance. It happens every year with rookies. So Jimmy's time is up. Let's move on to the Cardinals here. We'll go with the winners from the Arizona Cardinals. 7 total picks, 1 fantasy relevant receiver here. Rondale Moore out of Purdue. Dewey's, will go with you. Who's a winner in Arizona?
I think it's Chase Edmonds. I know James Conner just came to town here, but they didn't take a running back, and that leaves it's James Conner and Chase Edmonds fighting for work. To be honest, I like Edmonds' chances against Connor, the way that Connor looked when he was on the field last year. So that's my guy.
Bobby?
Yeah. So last year, Chase Edmonds was 28th in points per game, but he was 38th in touches per game. So right there, if he gets a little uptick last year in his career, in games he had 10 touches in the game, he averages 13.4 points per game and half-point PPR. So I think if he can get upwards to that 10 to 15 range consistently, he's going to be a solid low-end RB2.
Lucas?
I'm going to go Rondale Moore, and I think it's due to the fact that all the other receivers on his team are proven washed. It really that's what it comes down to. You're going to bounce back you bet on the bounce back of AJ Green, probably not going to happen. Clearly, Kirk and Isabella are a concern to the team, and I think the fake air raid fits, or the horizontal air raid fits Rondale Moore's game very nicely. And his ADP is going to be super low because people think yards per reception means fantasy points or something, I guess, is the critique on his game. So he'll definitely be a good value in rookie drafts and probably in regular drafts too.
Yeah, I didn't really have one on offense. I just had the Cardinals defense because I thought they did a great job making this defense a lot better with Zavon Collins coming in from Tulsa. So let's go right to the losers then, Dweez from Arizona.
I didn't really have a loser here. There's a few teams here that I just think the team drafted relatively well for their on-field presence, but it's not really knocking anybody, I think, at least fantasy-wise. So I don't have a loser.
Yeah,
Bobby?
mine was Christian Kirk. I was kind of excited for Kirk to kick inside, let AJ Green play outside. I actually talked about this. He actually has produced better on an efficiency metric wise, better in the slot in his career. So I was hoping that he could just monopolize those touches, take over for Larry Fitzgerald. But if Rondale Moore with his draft capital and takes like some of that work, it's just going to limit his upside. So I think Christian Kirk was the loser of this one.
Lucas?
I'm going to go D-Hop. I think just from like the way the offense ran last year, obviously I was off him because of clear reasons, players switching teams. The first couple of games, he just got a target volume. And then after that, the correction hit, and he was what we thought he was going to be. And now I can't imagine they don't manufacture touches for Rondale. They didn't sign James Conner to have him sit the bench. So I definitely think there's going to be a little bit of pullback on his sort of more so from his projection side than like his actual ADP, you could say.
My loser was Andy Isabella, and I know he hasn't been much of a winner anyway, but he's been somebody in fantasy circles and dynasty leagues that we've been waiting. AJ Green wasn't going to hurt Andy Isabella much, but I do think that Rondale Moore is going to. So Andy Isabella was one for me. But you're right. I think the Cardinals did a good job overall. Again, we're not talking team breakdowns, but I'm with Dweez. I didn't really have a loser there. Let's go to the LA Rams. 9 total picks, 4 fantasy relevant basically skill player positions. Let's go for the winners with the Rams. Dweez?
I don't know how you don't pick Tutu Atwell, and I don't mean he's a winner because he's going to get out there and blow up on the field. This guy should have been drafted 2 to 3 rounds later than he was. So he's getting paid, and that's why he's winning. That's all I got. Dude's 5'9", 150 pounds wet. Like,
Yeah.
Why was he drafted there? Doesn't matter why. He's getting that money. So he wins in his bank account mostly.
Second round pick there, and they passed over a lot of other quality wide receivers. Bobby?
All right. So I just want to talk. I should have brought this up in the beginning. I should have talked about this I actually did it. I looked at basically how many guys are successful in the middle to the first round, like for wide receivers, because there's so many second and third round wide receivers. It's under 50% hit rate for guys to get 9 points per game and half-point PPR for their career. So even first round picks, 42%. I had second round picks at 42%. Third round picks, 21%. So right now, today, we're talking about a bunch of second round wide receivers, first round wide receivers. Half these guys are not even going to hit. So that's just one thing I want to touch on. But that being said, I think the biggest winner was Tyler Higbee because there is no backup tight end to replace Gerald Everett. Last year, they combined, the two of them combined to split 59 targets each. They had 85 catches, 938 yards, and 6 touchdowns. That would have been the tight end 3. If you can get 80% of that, he's 6-7 tight end this year.
I like that pick a lot. Lucas?
Yeah, I couldn't really think of one like directly. Honestly, you could probably argue all of them won just because they had a lack of draft picks. The draft picks they used, they took – I mean, I know the names of the guys, but, like, they're not going to see – like, I mean, Tutu was their first pick. Like, he's not going to see fantasy relevance on the field. Jake Funk, running back, 3 other receivers that really have no meaning. So I think just the whole offense just in general, honestly.
My winners are Akers, Kupp, and Woods. They didn't bring in a second running. They didn't bring in an extra running back. Jake Funk, I don't think is going to be an issue. And they didn't bring in a high-profile wide receiver. I know they brought in Tutu Atwell, but Josh Reynolds was that guy last year, and he had some moments, but he didn't take over. So I do like Akers, Kupp, and Woods. I do like the Higbee pick, Bobby, as well. Let's go through the losers quickly for the Rams as well.
It's got to be Stafford and that body of his that's been beaten up all these years. Not a single O-lineman taken. One of the teams that probably needed to look O-line most in the league going into this draft didn't touch the spot at all in this draft. That's a problem for me.
Yeah, they lost their center in free agency, went to the Chiefs, and they didn't do anything to replace them. So I agree with that 100%. But I don't know. I really don't think there's losers because if you factor in Matthew Stafford from Jared Goff, it's like I feel like everybody in the Rams is a winner.
Sure. Lucas?
Yeah, I kind of like the Cardinals, just the projections take a hit, I guess. I think this team's going to be super over-projected. They already are in all the betting markets, and I think they will be in ADP as well.
I have Stafford as my loser as well. Upgrade overall for the Rams, obviously, with him coming in over Goff. But in regards to the draft in the second round, there was some other high-profile pass catchers there. And I think, Tutu could be fine. And it'd be fun to see a guy like that succeed. But they had other wide receivers to look at. And I think that was a knock on Stafford. All right, boys, let's move into the NFC South here. We'll start with the Carolina Panthers. Winners. Let's go around the horn. Dweez, you go first.
Just going to ignore the Seahawks.
Yeah, what happened to the Seahawks, man?
My bad. Okay, we'll go to the Seahawks. They had 3 picks. I'm sorry, I did ignore the Seahawks. I live in Seahawks country. I'm a 49er, I guess, so maybe I'm used to doing that. Sorry, Seahawk fans. Actually, shouts out to our girl Megan in the UK, big time supporter. She's a Seahawk fan. Megan, that might have been a personal attack. I apologize. I'll run it back here. Seahawks, 3 total picks, 2nd, 4th, and 6th rounders. Dwayne Eskridge, the only fantasy relevant name here. Who are the winners? Give me winners and losers simultaneously here, Dweez.
Well, as Dwayne Eskridge is the winner, okay? Now, in our coaching changes episode, Bobby and I talked about this offense under Shane Waldron, and what we said time and time again is that he likes the underneath passing game with he manufactures opportunity for yards after the catch. We both liked David Moore at the time because of it. He was still on the team. He's gone. Dwayne Eskridge is absolutely a yak monster. This guy's going to step in. And if Shane Waldron gets the opportunity to put his offense in at all, if Pete Carroll lets him, which we know hasn't always happened, Dwayne Eskridge should have a nice section on that play card dedicated to him and what he can do. So I think that's a nice opportunity for him. The loser obviously has to be Russ, right? Like only 3 picks. And again, no lineman taken because what you needed was another receiver, right? I guess on this team. Bad decisions. Russ already doesn't want to play there because they won't address the offensive line. And once again, they didn't.
Yeah, I personally think my winner is probably Chris Carson. I think he's going underdrafted because he was actually in Warren Sharp's efficiency metrics. He was number 1 in efficiency and success rate per rush. So he's still playing at an elite level, and they just decided not to pick up Rashad Penny's 5th-year option. So I think he's just winning across the board there. My loser, I don't think there really is one, to be honest with you. I was going to say Gerald Everett maybe because of the fact they brought in a notable 3rd receiver, because right now on the roster they didn't have a 3rd guy. Now they do, so that could affect the tight end production and receiving game.
Lucas, winner and loser for the Seahawks.
Yeah, I don't really know if there's any direct ones. Maybe Tyler Lockett, just because him and Eskridge played 2 completely different receiver molds. I think hypothetically, I could have seen them bring in, I don't even know a name to throw out. I guess just someone not Eskridge, hypothetically, is the right way to say it. So I think he takes a boost. And loser, again, I think it's just kind of from a team level. Like, this team didn't get any better. They probably honestly got worse, and that's going to – everything matters when it comes to fantasy, so I think they'll be a little bit overvalued just in their own right.
Yeah, I kind of agree with all of you guys. I put Russ is a winner and a loser just because he replaced that 3rd option at wide receiver. I don't think Everett – I think Everett has – that tight end position has such a unique role in Seattle. I think he's going to be just fine because David Moore didn't take away from those guys last year. Chris Carson's a great winner. I agree with that. And then really the loser overall is just the Seattle depth chart. They need help on offensive line. They could have used some help on defense. They only had 3 picks, though. By far the least amount of picks this year in the draft. So Seahawks only 3 picks there. All right, now, if my math is correct, we can move to the NFC South. And just for fun, let's switch up the order here. We'll go Lucas, Bobby, Dwayne. Lucas, winners and losers. Give me both of them, please, here for the Panthers.
I'm kind of going to go Terrence Marshall as a winner and then Robbie Anderson as a loser. That could be due to my liking of Terrence Marshall or him just being a better Robbie Anderson, hypothetically. But overall, I think this team, they probably had one of the best drafts.
Crushed it. I agree.
Every single pick. They seem like they're committed to Darnold, and I trust the OC and the coach to maximize that talent. So really, I think everyone takes a boost here. Obviously, I think Robbie goes a little bit down, but honestly, you could see a Cowboys-esque sort of target share, if you will. So all 3 of the receivers will be good.
Bobby?
My winner is Sam Darnold. I mean, it's nice. He must be flipping out that they're just investing in him. Like, he's got 3 good receivers. He must be losing his mind right now. Like, he has no idea how he's going to work with 3 good receivers. I guess my loser was Robbie Anderson, too. I did say that. But the one thing I did want to point out here is CMC's coming back. You know, do we really believe that CMC – what do you think the over-under on his targets are, 90-plus minimum? And then another thing, too, is this kid Tremble, this tight end. What do you guys think of him? Is he going to be anything more than Ian Thomas? I guess I could toss up Please because Ian Thomas had 31 targets last year. Mike Davis had 70 targets last year. So now you're inserting CMC in this rookie tight end. Is there going to be more production for those positions? Is that going to make all the receivers a loser?
Yeah. Sure. I got a response to that. Dewey's, go ahead.
Okay, so I got two winners here. I think Chuba Hubbard was a nice winner here, landing here. Look, he's first of all, guys like Ramondre Stevenson who went ahead of him, that was just absolutely ridiculous. So he fell a little bit here. Lands on a team where the coaching staff and the offensive makeup is built to take advantage of his electric play. Behind CMC, who he misses time now. This is the guy he is now. Like Chuba might get onto the field here in the vacuum that is the backup role in Carolina. And I love Chuba Hubbard. I have for years. His stock has been falling for years for whatever reason, but I think it's a great spot for him. I also think David Moore's kind of a winner here. Seems to have the slot spot locked up on that team as they drafted an outside wide receiver instead of filling that slot hole. So maybe David Moore is on the field more often than he was last year in Seattle. And Robbie's probably the loser.
Yeah, winners, Sam Darnold and the Panthers in general. Matt Rule came in last year as a rookie. They knew they were going to be terrible. They invested 8 consecutive draft picks last year. Their entire draft was defense. This year they started again with defense, took J.C. Horn as the first defender off the board. Absolutely fantastic. Well, I think in general they needed to fill a cornerback. And they could have gone with a different player, but I think they drafted for need. It was done well. Terrace Marshall and Chuba Hubbard as well. I totally agree. My concern, too, might be Chuba Hubbard is going to require a couple of targets. Christian McCaffrey's going to – he's going to sit for about 7 snaps probably this year. So Chuba Hubbard could see those targets as well.
He'll make the most of them.
Yeah, let's move on here to the Atlanta Falcons. They go Kyle Pitts at number 4 here. No big surprise there, but just one other fantasy relevant receiver, Frank Darby out of Arizona State in the 6th round. So not much changed outside of Kyle Pitts, which obviously is a big change. Lucas, we'll go with you first here, winner and loser for Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean, I think the winner, I think there's 2 huge ones, and I think it's the whole offense for one, just from you can literally draft. You could honestly probably stack all the big 5 from this offense in Pitts, Ridley, Julio, Ryan, and Davis and be fine. And then obviously Mike Davis is the huge winner. I guess I had a different viewpoint on how people were saying they were guaranteed to take a running back at 35 and a team that is in past probably toughest division in the NFL or the most offensive ran division in the NFL. They're going to focus on defense and they're going to run with Mike Davis, who they just played twice that season before them and gave him a decent contract. So all in on Davis. His ADP, got to get him now if you're drafting because he'll be, I don't know, round 4 pick probably come season time. That being said, though, Pitt's probably still staying off him for fantasy purposes just due to rookie tight ends and their sort of progression.
Yeah, I just want to remind everyone I stole him in our mock draft. I stole him like the 8th round. It's no big deal. I knew this was going to happen. Obviously I have Mike Davis as the biggest winner. I'll say this though. I want to temper expectations because Mike Davis was one of only 3 running backs last year that had over 200 touches that had 44% of his work come from the pass game. So remember, in contrast, Derrick Henry was 6% under Arthur Smith. So with Kyle Pitts, Julio Jones, and Calvin Ridley, how much passing game work is Mike Davis going to get? He's not an elite runner. So I think he's more of a mid-low-end RB2 as a lead back in this offense, but I'm not going to start drafting him in the high RB2 range. My loser is Hayden Hurst. Breaks my heart, obviously, from last year. We were a little high on him. He's just peace out. That's all I got to say to that.
Yeah. Obviously Davis, right? But Hayden Hurst, yes. All those people who are holding on to him in Dynasty, going to get him in Dynasty, hoping, hey, maybe year 2 is going to be the one because he's got the talent. He's just not he's done. Russell Gage probably as well is just a third pass catcher is going to struggle. I even think Calvin Ridley's touchdown numbers might take a little bit of a hit if Kyle Pitts becomes the red zone guy that he probably should be. I mean, Kyle Pitts can do it from anywhere on the field, but why wouldn't they give it to him in the red zone a lot? So I think there's potentially a few losers here, but there's so much offense on that team that it may not matter.
I agree. Matt Ryan, easy winner here. Just another big time weapon. They didn't draft another quarterback too, which is big. So obviously they're committed to him for the remainder of his contract. 2 more years there. We'll see what happens. And Hayden Hurst, easy loser. Mike Davis too, but I figured you guys would pick up Mike Davis, so I didn't mention him. But he's the obvious winner. Okay, let's move on to the New Orleans Saints here. 6 picks, 2 fantasy relevant receivers, but not until the 4th and the 7th round. Pretty much defense heavy here. Winner and loser, Lucas, for the Saints.
Is no one for both sides a viable answer? This had to be the most laughable draft in the most dire point of need for this team, and like they have not. I think they've drafted. I was looking at today 2 starting players since 2017, or post the Kamara Marcus, the 5 All-Pro player draft. I think 2 starters on this team. I mean, obviously, your main guys in Thomas and Kamara, I guess, get boosted, but like how much? Because they're quarterbacks, who knows who they're going to be. But losers, I think everyone, just from like a projection standpoint, has to be regressed down just due to the fact that this was a terrible, terrible draft.
Yeah, my winner was Adam Troutman. I think he had some decent draft capital last year, replacing Jared Cook, but really behind Michael Thomas, who's there really to throw to? I mean, all the receivers are kind of, obviously none of them, like Callaway and Traquan Smith. There's no one that's really notable. So behind Michael Thomas, targets are wide open. Adam Troutman could easily step in and be a low-end tight end 1 this year in a Sean Payton offense. I mean, we saw what Jimmy Graham and even Ben Watson did in this offense. My losers is the Saints QBs, because they don't really have that much talent. I mean, Lucas kind of hit on the head. They haven't drafted well. Behind Michael Thomas, yes, I think Adam Troutman could be good, but he might not be. He has not proven a thing yet. So I think the Saints QBs are the losers.
Luis?
I chose to look at this with a slightly rosier colored set of glasses on, I guess. I decided to think of it like, hey, this team believes in Traquan Smith and Marquez Callaway. They believe that one of these 2 guys can step up and be the 2. So to me, they were the 2 winners. The lack of at least high draft capital wide receivers. They drafted a couple special teamers, but just shows a vote of confidence that one of these 2 young guys can get out there and get it done. And my loser here is it's Michael Thomas, because, he kind of at this point needs somebody to take some pressure away from him, maybe a deep threat to take some of the safety pressure away from him. He didn't get any of that. Any help would have been nice for this kid. He didn't get it.
Yeah, I guess I just took the other angle on Michael Thomas, although I totally agree with you, Dweez. I just put him as my winner because they didn't draft anybody else. So where are the targets going to go? But Bobby, I agree with you. My loser is actually the New Orleans QBs. They pick up Ian Book, who's okay, in the back of the 4th round from Notre Dame, but he's not going to be a starter anytime soon. And if Jameis leaves next year and Taysom Hill doesn't work out, Ian Book will probably get first shot next season. So we'll see what happens. But the Saints just kind of didn't. Every Saints pick that came through, I was like, all right, who's next? Not one single pick was I pumped up for them. So we'll see what happens there. All right, let's move on to the defending Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 7 total picks, 2 fantasy relevant picks here. Winner and loser, Lucas?
I'm going to go winner because Mike Evans' ADP dropped another round this morning. I don't know why people – completely irrelevant to the draft. His ADP just went down a round, if people are wondering. So I don't really have a winner, loser. To be honest, I don't really think there is one. I think that they had an okay draft. I really like Jalen Darden, but yet again, they took probably one of my favorite receivers in the class, and he's not ever going to play along with Tyler Johnson. So no real main takeaways.
Bobby?
Ironically, my guy's Chris Godwin. Last year he was leading the team in the 12 healthy games he played. He was leading the team in targets, receptions, and yards, and he had 7 touchdowns in 12 games. And I think that Bruce Arians slot role we saw with Larry Fitzgerald and Reggie Wayne has been huge. So I think Chris Godwin can improve in his 2nd season, but I agree with Evans as well. Loser, I don't have one. I mean, this team, what team brings back all 22 starters after winning the Super Bowl? I mean, it's hard to really say there's any losers. So I'm going to go none.
Okay. I'm gonna say that my winner is Trask here. We've been calling for the we've been using the heir apparent title behind Brady for years and years. we're just gonna do it again. I mean, like, why not?
What do you think his ADP is going to be in Superflex rookie drafts?
too high, probably end of second. I mean, like, why would anybody take him at all?
Yeah.
My loser here is Bobby. It's Chris Godwin. So
Wow.
I'd say something rude here, but I was told not to.
Good job, Dweez.
My problem with Chris Godwin has nothing to do with the draft. It has to do with the fact that right before the draft, the team signed Antonio Brown back onto the team, who is just sucking targets away needlessly. He doesn't need to be on this team on the field. They have weapons that they don't need him. Chris Godwin is the guy that loses the targets when Antonio Brown steps in and gets all these targets. So to me, unrelated to the draft, but pretty close time-wise, Godwin lost a little bit of love for me.
My winner is Todd Bowles, defensive coordinator for the Buccaneers. I mean, they just got younger, they got better, and they got everybody back, as you mentioned, on both sides of the ball. First team in NFL history since the Super Bowl era to return all 22 starters, which is just, I mean, that's the epitome of the Brady effect there, trying to run it back. And my loser is Tyler Johnson, because, again, I love Tyler Johnson as well. He's already fourth or fifth in line, maybe sixth with O.J. Howard coming back, and they bring in Jalen Darden, who I think is great and a deep threat. And I just want to see Tyler Johnson dominate, because I think he will eventually when he gets a chance, but it won't be this year. Okay, let's move up to the NFC North here, and Dweez, we'll let you kick this one off here with your Chicago Bears, winner and loser for the Bears.
I say tentatively that the winner is Allen Robinson.
Yeah, me too.
Does he finally have a quarterback that can throw? Actually, I take it back. I would say that Darnell Mooney's probably a bigger winner, because he's still going to burn people and get 6 yards behind every defender, and he might actually have a chance to catch some of those passes this year. That's a nice change for this kid, who clearly is the best route runner in the history of football if you look at any fucking tape from last season. Sorry. My losers, the defense, the whole defensive side of the ball. First of all, I think the defense is imploding. I think it's imploding on the Bears over the past year and a couple of months. No back end help comes in off of this draft. Really, that cornerback kid, that Graham kid from Oregon, he's here, but maybe a good value where they got him. But I don't think that he's going to be what they need him to be. I don't think he's going to be a solid starter. I just think the Bears defense is imploding, and they didn't do anything in the draft to stop the bleeding.
Yeah, my winner was Cole Kmet. He started taking over as the primary tight end last year. Down the stretch, he was getting about 5.5 targets a game. I'm hoping they release Jimmy Graham. I think there's some dead cap to that if they do it after June 1st or something like that. But I think Cole Kmet could easily be the number 2. We've seen, the Matt Nagy comes from Andy Reid. We've seen Travis Kelce, obviously. I think that role is going to be premier. The biggest loser is my boy. As another redhead, we had one quarterback in the NFL. People could say what they want. We had one ginger quarterback, and they just couldn't let him have it, man. And it's bull.
How rude.
And I'm tired of it. And it's crap, and I don't like it. I'm done. I'm done with it all. So, Andy Dalton, you're not a loser. You're a winner, but you're a loser, unfortunately.
He's going to start day one. Dalton's going to start. He'll have his chance.
I love the support, Bobby. I'm going to agree as well. The winner here, Allen Robinson. Loser, Andy Dalton as well. Let's move on to the Detroit Lions here. And Dwayne, why don't you go ahead and kick us off again? Winner, loser for the Lions?
Maybe Quintez Cephas is the winner here. I liked Quintez Cephas coming out. Got on the field a little bit last year, but there's no receiving core on this team. It's just hot garbage. Tyrell Williams, who else is there? Somebody. Rashard Perriman. I think Quintez Cephas is a talented kid. He's going to get his opportunity to get out here and try. Who they draft? Like Amon Ra guy. Who names their kid after the Egyptian sun god? Whatever. It's fine.
That was the best plug we've had so far.
He's gonna compete in the slot, but he's not gonna touch Cephas on the outside. All he has to do is beat out Tyrell Williams or I forgot who the hell the other guy is again already. That's how useless it is. The loser has to be Goff here. There's no wide receiver 1. They were picking at 107. They couldn't come away with a wide receiver 1 with 2 legitimate studs that were around. But it is what it is. The move there probably should have been that they should have traded down and gone after a guy like Marshall or gone after a guy like Bateman, who could have competed as the one, but they didn't do it. So the Goff doesn't get that help. Maybe Cephas steps up. That's what I got.
My winner is TJ Hawkinson, because with Penei Sewell, now they have Taylor Decker on the other side. You have two elite, pretty quality tackles, hopefully. That means that Hawkinson doesn't have to stay in line to block as much. They can kick him out into the slot a little more to catch more balls. And plus, like I touched on before, like Dweez just touched on who the hell they have, right? So like it could be TJ Hawkinson getting over 100 targets this year. Plus, Goff loves throwing to the middle of the field. My loser, I think, really has to come down to I think it's just Jared Goff in the office in general. I mean, there is no true number one. Actually, the kid, Equinemius St. Brown from the Packers, his brother is this kid. So, I mean, he could be okay from fantasy as another winner, but I don't really have necessarily a loser. But go ahead.
Equinemius and Amon-Ra. What were these people smoking when they named their children?
Some good. Whatever it was, I wanted.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, best names in the league and cultural reference, which I appreciate. And look, I mean, the reality is, like, getting Amon-Ra St. Brown in the 4th round is, I think, a steal. I'm with you. For fantasy purposes, we wanted them to get a non-Penei Sewell, but for NFL purposes, for Penei Sewell to fall down to 7, it was the obvious pick. Lucas, do you have a winner and loser here for the Lions?
No, I'm just happy for Dan Campbell. I was taking undersized Devontae Smith would have been a dumb pick, I think. I think he did a really good job of sticking to what he wants, and it's clearly the position he played, O-line and D-line. So I think they did a good job. And, I mean, St. Brown, I don't really know where he's going to go in ADP, but I know he's better than every single receiver on the roster right now. So
I totally agree.
I mean, I don't want to say he could put up a lot of targets, but, like, hypothetically, like, I don't know who else is going to get him. So he could be a good sleeper in rookie drafts and stuff right now.
I went against the grain a little bit here for Sewell. So Jared Goff is my winner because I couldn't really think of another winner on the team. But Jared Goff's a winner only because Penei Sewell coming in with Taylor Decker to have the bookend tackles is just going to be massive for Jared Goff. They need help all over the place. Getting St. Brown, who I believe in as well, at a discount, I think is great. And Jamar Jefferson, if he could be another scat back who's going to be better than Kerryon Johnson with AP out and DeAndre Swift there, I think they're going to be just fine under Anthony Lynn there. And my loser is the Bengals and the Dolphins for not picking Penei Sewell. Okay, let's get into the Packers here. Dweez, I'll let you kick this one off here for the Packers winners and losers.
Okay, so I'm going to assume for the sake of this show that Aaron Rodgers is on the field next year.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't actually have a winner here now, and that's not to say that they didn't do a good job. I think this was a solid football draft that didn't really have any big impact anywhere. To me, it's like a incremental improvement kind of draft where they wanted to improve a little bit at a bunch of different spots, and that's how they were going to go about this. If you press me to pick one, maybe I'd say Amari Rodgers, the wide receiver out of Clemson, because he's got a chance to play with Aaron Rodgers, and they've been looking for that 3 for a while. I don't know that he's it, but no real winners for me on this team, except generally the team I think did improve. My loser is Kylan Hill, who Tyler Moss will tell you Kylan Hill was a stud in this draft, and he could have gone a lot of places and had some kind of an impact. It's not going to happen here in Green Bay. If he gets any volume at all this year, it's going to be very minimal. He might get 10 snaps a game, but he could have been something, except not in the tundra.
He's buried on the depth chart now. Bobby?
Yeah, my winner is Robert Tonyan. Obviously, Amari Rodgers, 3rd-round pick, but he's 5'9", so he doesn't really necessarily seem like a dominant red zone guy. And Tonyan had double-digit touchdowns, which carried his weight last year. So he looks like he still could be the number 2 in the red zone behind Devontae Adams. So I think he's a winner here. And then for the loser, I think it's the backup receivers, the Lazards of the world, the MVSs, or, my boy Devin Funchess. One of those guys could have emerged as a number 2 in this offense with Aaron Rodgers, but now with this invested capital, there's a 50-50 shot who it could be. So I think those guys are all losers.
Lucas?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Rodgers is getting points for Jeopardy points. There's no correlation there. We'll see what he does. But I don't know. Amari Rodgers is pretty unique because they had him running back tryout or running back drills at pro days and whatnot. He's kind of like that mold of a receiver. I don't really think that's like Matt LaFleur's thing. So I was kind of confused on the pick. Losers, I don't really know if there is any. I guess Rodgers is probably the answer. But yeah, Kylan Hill, I mean, you can watch his Vanderbilt tape. I guess, and think he's good, but he's not any good. So Aaron Jones, honestly, Aaron Jones could be a winner hypothetically, I guess, but I don't know. Just as long as Rodgers plays, just take your big three on that team and don't worry about really anything else.
Yeah, the fact that they didn't get a wide receiver until the third round again, and I like Clemson receivers. I like Amari Rodgers. But the fact that they didn't get a wide receiver after the biggest news on draft weekend was Aaron Rodgers wanting out of town. My big winner is Jeopardy. My loser is Aaron Rodgers. Let's move on to the Minnesota Vikings, and we'll get to the NFC East. Vikings, go ahead, Dweez.
It's Kirk Cousins here. Last season, Kirk Cousins was 30.2% of his dropbacks. He was pressured fourth most in the league. The Vikings fixed that by taking maybe the pick in the draft.
I agree.
Traded down, and at 23 takes Christian Darrisaw, who I think is a legitimate man on the offensive line. He's going to lock up the left tackle spot in Minnesota for a long time. And the trade back to get that's who the Bears should have taken at 20. But I digress. Kirk Cousins is the winner. He's got a protection on his backside that he's needed. I don't have any losers. Nobody's on this team suffers from this draft.
Bobby?
Yeah, my winner was Irv Smith. Obviously, they didn't take any notable pass catchers in this draft. And with Kyle Rudolph now gone, the last 4 weeks of the season, he was a top 5 tight end. In those weeks without Kyle Rudolph, he had 4 touchdowns in those 3 touchdowns in 4 games. So I think he could definitely be a low-end tight end one. And like we said, I don't think there's any losers. They did a lot of investment on the offensive line, which is just only going to help. And they have the 2 stud receivers and Dalvin Cook, wheels up.
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole team, I think they honestly had the best draft. Kirk Cousins, when he's not pressured, is a top 3 quarterback in the NFL. I know me and Dwayne really liked Justin Jefferson last year. He might do better than what he did last year. Thielen, they didn't really draft his replacement. He's not a very good dynasty asset, but just a good redraft. I mean, I'm a big Smith-Marset guy, but the 5th-round capital is not going to do much. And the running back they took is going to play special teams out of Iowa State, so I'm not really worried about anything there. And they just drafted 2 O-line starters to an already pretty good O-line. So they're kind of wheels up from here. We'll see what they can do. They had a really, really good draft.
I agree. I put a winner down as Adam Thielen as well. I mean, when he's healthy, he produces. They didn't bring anybody in to, quote-unquote, replace him. We know Justin Jefferson's probably the one at this point, or at least going that way, but Cousins as well. The Vikings did a really great job, and frankly, I don't really have a loser here other than maybe some division mates, so I think the Vikings did a great job.
What do you guys think about the quarterback they drafted? Any thoughts?
Kellen Mond, I think, is awesome, personally.
Solid quarterback.
Yeah, I think he's going to be great in here. Okay, actually, I don't want to digress too much because we have a whole nother league to get into this evening here, unless we want to cut it and just make it a second one, but it's up to you guys. Very quickly, though, 1 minute. Today on the Rich Eisen Show, Kyle Shanahan was on the Rich Eisen Show. Great interview talking about Trey Lance and how everything went down. It was cool just to hear it after the fact. He doubled back to the RG3 Kirk Cousins draft and kind of walked everybody through that as well. And really, it was, Kellen Mond is kind of a hybrid, like RG3 Kirk Cousins, but RG3 was the mobile one ready to go. This time, Trey Lance is the mobile one, but he's raw. And in the other instance, Kellen Mond now is the mobile one who can make those plays, but raw to sit behind in Minnesota. So I actually like Kellen Mond a lot. I had Kellen Mond personally ahead of Mac Jones and Kyle Trask and Davis Mills, just from what I saw. And I like that style quarterback. So I like Kellen Mond a lot, but probably not until Kirk Cousins' contract is up in 2 years. He cannot be franchise tagged because he was twice in Washington. So when it comes up, they're either going to pay him too much money or he's going to walk. They're not going to pay him at that point of his career. He's not that great. So I think Kellen Mond will get a chance in 3 years or 2 years from now, and I think he'll be just fine. Okay, let's move on to the NFC East. Bobby, I'll let you kick this one off here. Let's start with the Cowboys, and we'll get to your Giants. But why don't you go first, and we'll go Lucas and Dwayne.
Yeah, if we're sticking to just the draft, I think it's Blake Jarwin is the winner because they didn't bring in any notable pass catchers. Obviously, they had the stud 3 receivers. But we saw Dalton Schultz last year produce a tight end 1 season, and he's nothing to be. He's like average at best. So I think Blake Jarwin could be someone that could be on the fantasy radar this year as the tight end 1 for Dallas. Loser-wise, I didn't really see anything. I think I love what's happening with the offensive line. They're getting healthy because they have so many guys that got hurt last year. So I didn't see anybody that was a loser here either from a fantasy standpoint. So I'm going to say no losers for Dallas, which hurts my heart, but
from a fantasy perspective, I mean, this offense honestly might be better than they were last year, and I was all over them. From an NFL perspective, whatever any Cowboys fan tells you about their record, just don't listen to it. Because, yes, they drafted however many defensive players, but they drafted one starter in their secondary, and that was literally the only thing they needed. So we'll see. I guess I saw Sky put, I think, Jerry Jones as his winner, maybe because he was kind of covered up that he drafted defense a little bit, but we'll see for them. But, yeah, draft every single player on that offense. They're going to be just what they were the first 4 games last year.
My turn. Yep. Cool. I think Kelvin Joseph is a winner here. He's a second-round cornerback that they took. Very young guy, very raw, only 20 games in college because of some issues with his transfer stuff. Is he also a rapper?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Like Boss Man Fat or something.
He's not Cole
You're gonna
Beasley,
have to share the link underneath the show for anybody watching.
I don't have to wait.
Look, he was the eighth cornerback off the board in this draft. He should probably, by all accounts, have been fighting for field time wherever he went. Instead, he faces very little competition for snaps. I think he's going to start pretty quickly for the Cowboys, which should not have been happen. It shouldn't happen for him based on what happened in college and just kind of his skill set in general. So I think he wins because he's getting an opportunity here. And that might speak right to your point, Lucas. Like, that defense is not going to get a lot better. Even though they drafted a lot of pieces on that team. I don't think there's really any losers. I mean, I would have maybe liked to see them get some O-line depth just because of what happened last year, but that's not going to happen again, right?
Yeah, you can't project it.
Right? Yeah, they're all getting older though. My winner was Jerry Jones, and it really comes down to the fact that their offense is loaded and they know that, and that's great. So even if, Lucas, and I agree with you, these guys aren't all amazing, but it's a lot of depth. It's a lot of young players who are hungry, trying to make a difference. If they can patch a couple of holes with Sean Lee retiring, Van Der Esch hit or miss, Micah Parsons, bro, is a beast. And them trading back and still getting Micah Parsons by 2 spots, I thought was a win. So Jerry Jones patched some holes, which is not very Jerry Jones. I thought he might get another Ferrari in this offense that they don't need. He didn't. He was smart. They got all defense, which I thought was real smart. So that's it. And loser really is I don't think anybody, frankly, just because they tried to patch so many holes. And Jarrow went against the grain a little bit, and I think he did what was best for the football team versus what was best for ticket sales. They did that last year with CeeDee Lamb. So with Dak back and this offensive line hopefully getting healthy, although they're getting old, they get healthy, I think they'll be able to do a lot better. Bobby, why don't you jump into your New York Football Giants?
Yeah. Well, the winner, I think, is Daniel Jones. I mean, it's awesome to see that they care enough to keep giving him weapons between Galladay and now Tony. You know, obviously it gives them more depth long term. So obviously Shepard's contract could be up by this year, so they can get rid of him, and then they put Tony into the slot. So I think Daniel Jones, to make or break year for him. The loser, obviously, I think, is Sterling Shepard and Darius Slayton, because now they're going to have competition for 3 receiver sets. They could easily just get bumped off the field completely if Tony does take over that slot role and Shepard kicks out wide again. I just think that those guys are probably the losers for the Giants.
Lucas?
Yeah, I mean, winner, yeah, I don't know, Galladay, and I think it's from the aspect of they're going to try to mix in these 3 receivers way too much, and it's not going to work. And I think, like, in its own right, the loser is Tony as much as it is. I'm just not a big fan of him in general, but the player he is what we wanted Mecole Hardman to be, getting the touch passes, getting the short plays, and yards after catch. And I don't know if I trust Dave Gettleman and Jason Garrett to be creative enough for this guy. And not like that's a bad thing or anything, but, like, I don't know, Rashad Bateman was on the board, like all these other receivers that they could have taken. So I think a winner and a loser, I guess, for the receiving core in their own right. Might just honestly make it as confusing as it was last year. I know last year the target share distribution was impossible to project, and I mean, they weren't even healthy to all play the same game, so it's kind of hard to project it even when they were playing together. So I'd say this is probably Galladay would be the only one that I'm kind of comfortable with drafting going forward.
Hey, could I just say something before you jump in? They tried this with Tavon Austin.
Yeah.
You know, the Dallas Cowboys board, and they couldn't use him. So if it's anything like that, it's not going to look great for Jason Garrett.
I've got my winner here is Sterling Shepard. Same conversation that we've been having, right? Like, I also don't really like Tony very much. I don't think he's a great receiver. It was a terrible pick. But the point is, there were plenty of receivers available that could have stepped in and immediately challenged for that 2 spot across from Galladay, and they didn't take any of them. So to me, that says Sterling Shepard's a 2, and that's locked in on the depth chart. So that's a big win for him, a guy that could have been facing an uphill climb to maintain his spot. I don't know. Darius Slayton is a loser here. He's kind of, after week 1 last year, kind of disappeared anyway. So I don't know that anybody should be talking about him.
The only stat that I have of Tony, I don't watch film or anything. I didn't do a ton of research, but his junior year, he was 7th in receptions on Florida, and we don't like senior receivers as it is. So like I guess I was confused on the whole like people liking him, I guess. But there's definitely a lot of red flags for people in their rookie drafts.
Oh yeah.
Winner, Daniel Jones. I put loser, Sterling Shepard, only because there's another player playing similar position. But I do agree with you that, we'll see what happens. I think Kadarius Toney is going to be more than a gimmicky wide receiver. I know it's ridiculous to mention Antonio Brown in any fantasy circle, but if you just take the player and what they're able to do, Kadarius Toney is a yards after catch kind of a guy, and Antonio Brown made his bread late in his career with Pittsburgh because he was able to, get those deeper shots. But if he's able to do anything close to that, I think it's going to take away from Shepard and be all right. And we'll see. But you're right; they did try this with Tavon Austin and Jason Garrett, so we'll see what happens there in New York. All right, Bobby, why don't you get into Philadelphia Eagles?
My winner's Miles Sanders, only because of the fact, and it's not even draft related necessarily. I know they did take a running back, but I think, from that perspective, they coming from Nick Sirianni, coming up from the Colts, also the Chargers, he had a satellite back like Austin Eckler and Nyheim Hines, and I think that fifth round running back they took is probably more fitted for that role. So I think Miles Sanders could easily take that, Jonathan Taylor, Melvin Gordon lead back role still for this offense. So I do believe he's going to be good. Plus the Eagles are getting back a bunch of offensive linemen. I mean, Andre Dillard, Brandon Brooks. So I think outside of the draft, he's a winner as well. My loser probably is going to be Jalen Reagor. I just think that Jalen Hurts is going to be great for fantasy. I love him for himself, but I just don't see him being able to support Dallas Goedert, Smith, Reagor, Sanders, all in the offense together. So I think that Rager's overall value takes a little bit of a hit, and that's why I think he's a loser in the draft.
Lucas?
Yeah, winner, I would say just definitely Jalen Hurts. I really like the Dickerson pick. In round 2, I think he was a round 1 guy easily. And then I think as much as I'm mixed feelings on Smith, like it doesn't hurt to add a receiver for a quarterback. So you roll him with Reagor, Goddard. It sounds like Ertz is probably staying. So kind of he has no reason to lose. And now this team, even on top of that, kind of like the Giants, has extra first for next year. So they have all guns blazed to go get a quarterback next year, kind of putting a little fire in Jalen Hurts. And we like the dual threat quarterbacks. And his ADP has been kind of weird because he shot up all the way to like QB7 post season. And he's kind of back down to like QB10. So there's a little bit of a correction that maybe people can capitalize going forward. And loser, I don't know. I'm going to go Miles Sanders just from the fact that I think the capital on Gainwell is going to kind of boost people to think that Sanders is going to be a workhorse again. I really like Kenny Gainwell, and we were kind of talking about it with me and Bush and Tyler. I just think that the draft capital is a little bit different this year for running backs because the class was pretty weak overall, meaning I think teams were smarter to just kind of lower them down your board, if you will. And I think Gainwell, if Sanders misses a game or two, I think Gainwell would just be just as fine as Sanders going forward. So I think maybe Sanders loses a little bit, but not by much.
Dweezy?
Yeah. I agree with the winner there. It hurts. Devonta Smith, to me, is coming out of college, a top 5 route runner of all time. Wide receivers coming out of college, which is big for a quarterback that's on the run, a quarterback that's still relatively new in the league. Somebody's going to be open. That helps. Kenny Gainwell can do everything that you will ask him to do on this team. He can line up out wide in the slot. He can pass block. He can run the ball. He can catch the ball. So he's going to be a positive addition. And you're right, Landon Dickerson, best center in this class. So that was a great addition for Jalen Hurts. I also agree with Lucas on this one. Sorry, Bobby. Miles Sanders is my loser. You and I talked in that coaches episode show about how much this passing game is used under Shane Steichen. 24% of the team targets in 2020 went to the backs in LA. Unfortunately, Miles Sanders struggled a little bit in the last couple of seasons in the pass game. Kenny Gainwell is a fabulous pass catching back. He was the best pass catching back that I saw on tape in this class. I think they draft him to do that and take that role away from Miles Sanders. That hurts. Miles Sanders was right at the top of my breakout potential list. He's likely going to be falling pretty far down that list for me in 2021.
Winner, Jalen Hurts, getting a former teammate, Devontae Smith, Heisman Trophy winner. Dude's a beast. Really excited about that. I also still believe in Jalen Reagor. I think he's going to have a huge season this year. My loser, gentlemen, I'm going to make it 3 for 3. And Bobby, I do also apologize. Miles Sanders is my loser as well. And I think Dweez hit it on the head. You bring in a guy. Here's the deal. It's not just a 5th round running back that they're bringing in for some snaps. This is a pass catching specialist. That's what he does. They brought in, and in fantasy, now look, for the Eagles, I think Miles Sanders is going to be great. They still have Boston Scott. They're still going to have Kenny Gainwell. The Eagles did the right thing, and this is going to be awesome for them. For us in fantasy, for the 3rd year in a row, taking Miles Sanders at the back of the 1st or the 2nd round, I just don't think it's going to pan out again. And we saw last year, with the exception of 2 runs, albeit against the 2 best rushing defenses, the Saints and the Steelers, I believe, Miles Sanders was more or less bottled up overall. So we'll see what happens, but I do think Kenny Gainwell, because it's Kenny Gainwell, not another running back. Any other 5th round running back, I'd be all in on Miles Sanders, but Kenny Gainwell makes me nervous because it's him and what he does specifically, which takes away in fantasy circles, unfortunately. All right, let's end up with the Washington football team. We'll take about a 30-second pause, catch our breath, and get into the AFC side. We are doing a marathon episode to get everything in for this first one before we break all these teams down. So if you're still listening, thank you for getting into it live. If you are, jump in the comments on the podcast. I appreciate you sticking around with us. Washington football team, Bobby, go ahead.
Bobby's frozen.
Yeah, Bobby frozen. Lucas, why don't you take over?
I mean, this team is winning the division by a game or 2. I'm ready for this. They had a really good draft. They got like I was watching like videos after, and they said they had Davis like top 10 on their board. That's among all the other guys, right? And Cosme, I'm really big on him. That was a steal. And then Diami Brown for some reason fell to round 3.
That's my guy.
He's probably the best like burner, if you will, in the class, and that is the only pick, I guess, the football team needed on offense. They have their 2 running backs. Say what you want about Ryan Fitzpatrick. He's a top 10 quarterback in the league when he's playing on a given team.
Yeah, he's great.
So this team, I'm excited for this team. Great coaching, probably better than the Cowboys, and they're going to be undervalued all year. So I think in fantasy and in if you're betting or football or whatever, like they're definitely going to be a team to capitalize on just because they had a really good offseason in general.
Dweez?
Antonio Gibson is a winner here. There was some speculation they may go running back at some point. They didn't. They didn't touch it. They didn't touch it at all. That means he's fighting against Peyton Barber, Lamar Miller, and McKissick still for snaps. And I'm gonna predict this now. J.D. McKissick disappears by the end of the season. He's not on anybody's redraft fantasy rosters. I think he was a hold. He was a. I don't know the term, but they used him only because they were waiting for Gibson to feel comfortable as a running back on the field. And once he does that, they can use him to do everything McKissick did, but do it better. I think Antonio Gibson is going to be the steal of every redraft fantasy league this season.
Good call. And I think Antonio Gibson, J.D. McKissick was not relevant before he hit the Washington football team. And I'm not sure he would have been relevant if not for Alex Smith to be their quarterback. That's what Alex Smith wants and what he needs, and he was able to get that here. Bobby, give us your winner and loser from the Washington football team.
I hate that I just got shit on by all 3 of you guys, and then my internet's like, hey, that's enough, man. You got to go. Just get out of here. They just shat on you. It's over. I was just going to say I had a rebuttal, but I'm going to move on. I had a rebuttal to your Miles Sanders slander. But anyway, Washington football team, Ridiculous. Washington football team. I think I love the fact that we might get 16 games of Ryan Fitzpatrick. My winner is
17.
Everybody on that team. 17 games.
20
I
games.
love it.
15 games. Let's go.
I love it. I love the fact that Terry McLaurin and Curtis Samuel, Logan Thomas. I love it for that offense. Just let's rock and roll. I think from a loser standpoint, I don't really think there was one, to be honest with you, because they didn't really necessarily take any. I think it's more of adding Curtis Samuel. How many players can Ryan Fitzpatrick truly make elite? But at the same time, I'm just excited to see Ryan Fitzpatrick. It's good for the NFL.
Yes, I love that. I love that. And we were just talking about J.D. McKissick and him being – my winner is Ryan Fitzpatrick as well. De'Ami Brown has been the one guy I've been repping on Twitter feeds, like, who's your deep sleeper coming into the draft? Someone know what he's talking about. Blah, blah. I kept putting De'Ami Brown on every one of those posts. Lands here. I'm really pumped on it. I love the kid. I saw an interview of his with Chris Sims. And, when you watch an interview with somebody, you just get to like them as a person. You immediately become a fan of the player. I'm rooting for De'Ami Brown. I love the kid. Before I heard his interview, everything is meshing together. I'm really rooting for this kid. I think it'll be great. And then the loser is the NFC East. The Washington football team is legit, and they don't have a long-term quarterback. They'll have to address that next year, but their defense is the best in the division easily. Their offense is, outside of the Cowboys, the best in the division, in my opinion. And if Fitzpatrick can be, 80% what we're used to, I think the Washington football team will be just fine. All right, boys. We are in a long one here, but we're going to get into the AFC here. I think we're going to be just fine. Everyone take a breath. While you do that, I'm going to rep something kind of unusual here because we have a special opportunity. You guys take a quick break, and we'll be back in 30 seconds. I want to give a shout-out to this tournament here that Dweez and I are a part of, and we want to thank any of the followers, any of the listeners that had voted for us. Dwayne and I were unaware that we had been voted on until this popped up on Twitter today. Basically, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see the screen. If you're on podcast, I'll explain it very quickly and we'll get back into things. So hashtag get ballsy, right? This is from the Ball Blast crew. Shouts out to Ball Blast Football. Check them out on YouTube. Check them out on the podcast and on Twitter as well. Big up to the gals over there doing big things. So here's the deal. There's a 32 fantasy football page tournament happening for a chance to be in their listener league and a chance to win a t-shirt and a mug and all these fun things. Dwayne and I were voted in as one of the top 32 teams. So at Dweez Nuts on Twitter, all Z's, no S's, y'all know what to do. And at my name, Sky Guasco, SKYGUASCO, we were voted in. So what's going to happen is on Wednesday, this is Tuesday, you're listening to this. On Wednesday, they're going to drop the tournament voting. We want you to go in there. Dweez is in one bracket. I'm in another bracket, so you can vote for both of us, and we would appreciate that. Vote for Dweez Nuts. Vote for Sky Guasco on the Twitter poll, and we'll see what happens as we go through the tournament. Kind of a fun thing. So shouts out again to Ball Blast Football for inviting us in, and we hope that we can make some waves here. Hashtag get ballsy and the fantasy football community. So big up to the ladies over there at Ball Blast helping us out and doing big things. So shouts out. And Dwayne, good luck, my man. Hopefully I'll see you deeper in the tournament.
Same to you, sir. Same to you. Let's go.
Okay, boys. Let's get into this here. We got another 16 teams. We know the drill. Let's blast through this here. Let's start with the Ravens. 8 picks overall, 2 fantasy relevant moves. One of my favorite drafts in the entire NFL on draft day. My second favorite draft, only 2, of course, my Cleveland Browns, which we'll get to in just a second. But we'll start with the Ravens. And Bobby, why don't we start with you again, man? Let's go with the Ravens off the bat here. Winners and losers.
I think it's Lamar Jackson. I think him adding another bigger body weapon in the red zone. I mean, he's throwing to Marquise Brown, who's like this under 6-foot receiver, and then Mark Andrews in the middle of the field. So it gives him another weapon in the red zone to go along with his legs. So I think it's good for him. I think the question is he now a top 2 quarterback? How high are you willing to take him? I still think he's probably 3 to 4 range, but still I think it's good news. I think the loser's Marquise Brown. This is a low pass volume offense under Greg Roman, so it's not going to be a lot to go around. Marquise Brown did start turning it on during the second half of the year, but at the same time, I just don't think there's enough pass volume to support Andrews himself and now with Bateman on board, and Sammy Watkins. So I think that Marquise Brown's the loser.
Dwayne, why don't you go next?
All right, my winners here are Dobbins and Edwards in the run game. Look, this team went out and got a huge man from Georgia to play guard. 6'6", 345 pounds, this dude. He's going to compete for a role in that run game pretty quickly. Orlando Brown is gone, so maybe they can move some guys outside to tackle if they can put this big man at guard. They have options on the offensive line, and that always helps. The best running offensive coordinator of all time put together another great season for his running backs. My loser is actually Rashad Bateman here, because Rashad Bateman could have gone to a lot of teams and been a developmental one or an immediately dominant number two in a lot of places. Instead, he goes to Baltimore, where he's going to be competing for the lowest number of targets in the league with Hollywood, Sammy Watkins, even Miles Boykin, Devin Duvernay, and Mark Andrews. Not to mention fellow rookie Tylan Wallace also got drafted, no slouch, out of OK State. Okay, so too many guys. There's never been enough volume. There never will be enough volume as long as these coaches are coaching this team. Rashad Bateman is a big loser for what he could have done.
Lucas.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to learn how to draft good, I don't know why teams just don't copy the Ravens, because they had another fantastic draft. Lamar, is the clear winner. He is my QB2. I don't think I'm going to move him. Not that this fixes the passing game, but it seems like the Ravens, it's not like they know they don't throw the ball, but they're good. So they just go with what works. And I think a trio of Bateman, Wallace, and Hollywood with Mark Andrews in this run game is actually going to work. Ben Cleveland's a great pick. A lot of O-line scouts, if you will. Brandon Thorne's the main one. He works for ETR. Had Cleveland as the best O-line pick at the value. So I'm excited from them. I'll probably still stay away from the receivers and just stack Andrews, Lamar, and running backs, though. But I think that this whole team kind of took an improvement forward to make a run at the Chiefs.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson, easy winner for me as well. And I put the Big Ben as the loser basically because they had a slim glimmer of hope that the Ravens were falling off last year. And Big Ben came back trying to win the division. The Browns, I think, are going to win the division. If they don't, it'll be the Ravens. The Bengals should be excellent in 2 to 3 years. Big Ben's the loser here. And I agree also, Rashad Bateman just in the potential. Let's go to the Cincinnati Bungles here. Bobby, I'll have you kick this one off.
Yeah, I think it's Joe Burrow. I mean, that trio of receivers that he has is going to be very good. It could be very similar to what we saw with the Dallas Cowboys last year. Defense isn't great. Offensive line, even if it was starting to get hurt with Dallas, they threw a lot. So I think that Joe Burrow is going to be throwing a lot this year. Now he's got an elite number one. T. Higgins, to be honest with you, might be the loser in this whole thing because of the fact that now they have Chase, they have Boyd in the middle of the field. So I think it might be tough for the Higgins to return value as a top 20 wide receiver. But at the same time, I think overall the passing offense is definitely a winner in this one.
Dweez?
You're absolutely right. They also go out and get a big guard from Clemson to put some O-line depth there to kind of help out. But, dude, Chase Higgins and Boyd could be so good, so fast, and so nasty. My losers, look, just to pick a loser, I guess I picked Samaje Perine. His dynasty stock spiked real hard when Bernard left that team. Now they go draft Chris Evans, and it's 2 very, very, very mediocre backups that are totally worthless. And people will just now remember that Samaje Perine is totally worthless. And those people that went out and snagged him in Dynasty, maybe they'll wake up after this.
Lucas?
I don't really think he's a loser. I guess Joe Burrow, because he's going to get a lot of hype, and this O-line is not good. And Carmen was definitely not the pick. I usually resort to this O-line guys, because I have no clue what I'm talking about. But a lot of the O-line guys didn't really like him, kind of a reach. But the receivers will be good. Jamar Chase, knock on wood, might have to be the easiest receiver prospect to ever make predictions on. Every single model had him in the 99th percentile. He went 5 overall. He outproduced hypothetically the second best rookie receiver prospect we've seen in the last 5-6 years in college, and Justin Jefferson. So yeah, I don't know what his ADP is. It's probably be pretty high, but it still might even be worth the investment in all fantasy formats coming up this year.
Winner to me is Joe Mixon pretty easily. They didn't bring in another great running back, and while they didn't bring in some mammoth offensive linemen, this offense in general is just going to – defenses will not be able to play up. period. If Burrow's healthy and they have all these other guys out there, I think Joe Mixon, who led the league in touches when he went down last year, I think is going to be just fine. The offensive coordinator for Cincinnati just came out and said they don't want him to leave the field. He just needs to stay healthy, and Joe Mixon, I think, will be an absolute beast. My losers are T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd, and I still think both of them will be absolutely fantastic. But Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase have history already, and early in the season, it was A.J. Green getting peppered. So if that's Jamar Chase again, these guys think are going to fall off a little bit. But we saw in Dallas, 3 receivers and the quarterback can definitely eat with the running back getting some too. I just worry about this offensive line, making sure that Joe Burrow can stay healthy. Let's move on to my Cleveland Browns here, my AFC Niners. Bobby, go ahead.
Your AFC Niners. You know what? The thing is, I think my winner is probably Odell Beckham Jr. I just think that right now today, his ADP is wide receiver 33. He's being drafted finally at like regular costs. He's not going to cost you a 4th-round pick, a 3rd-round pick. So I think if I can get him in the 7th round, I'm willing to take a shot on that level of upside. They did draft Anthony Schwartz. I don't really know much about this kid, but
he's a burner.
They needed a 3rd wide receiver. They have Rashard Higgins, but at the same time, I think with Landry and Odell, I think I'm going to be pretty good with those guys. I don't think there really was a loser. This team is ascending. I mean, I think pretty much across the board. You look at Nick Chubb and all those guys. I mean, they're bringing back all their offensive linemen, and I can't really point a loser out for fantasy purposes.
Dwayne?
The winner here is just the whole Cleveland Browns football team. This was a fantastic – this is the best draft on the year. It was a great draft. Solid, not always sexy, but solid pieces up and down the roster to fill holes, provide everything that you could have done. They did. They go out and pick up this JOK kid who was – if it wasn't Darisaw, he was the pick of the draft. Fantastic pick there as well. They've had a great offseason from the moment the bell rung, and they just kept it rolling here through the draft. I just put the AFC North as the loser.
Lucas?
All right, listen. This team is probably like the 2nd best on paper. Not going to lie.
Yes, but they're the Browns.
If Baker comes out at plus 4,000 to win MVP, I'll probably bet it. If they stay right around the plus 3,000 to win the Super Bowl, all these lines aren't in Iowa yet, or else I would have bet it. I'll probably bet them. But that being said, they're 1 quarterback away from like actually being a good NFL team. And like, not that I don't mean that because I don't like Baker. I mean that like actually legit. Like an average quarterback with 2 average receivers.
That's why they're the Niners. Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yes, but like at least the Niners had offensive weapons. Like the Browns had weapons that were good in 2013. That is still like, I mean, it is true. So I like the Schwartz pick. The first 2 picks were fantastic, but like I was kind of expecting him to get a receiver that might play right away or something else. So we'll see if Odell and them are healthy. But I think more from a football standpoint, I think the line for it's either them or the Ravens are both like plus 120 to win the division, which never would have thought would have happened in 2021 for the Browns.
Yeah.
So.
I'm going Browns. I'm going Browns all day. My winner's Nick Chubb. The defense got a whole lot better. They're going to be in tight games or leading. And the only time Nick Chubb comes off the field is if they're getting blown out or blowing teams out. I just don't think that's going to happen this year. And he's going to be healthy for those 5 games, hopefully, that he was out last year. And loser, again, I'm going to pull out a whole division, the AFC North, because the Browns are not the Browns anymore. The Browns are a very good team. They have a great head coach. They have a much better front office. And if Baker can play the way that he did in the second half of the season last year and everyone stays healthy and Odell Beckham stays healthy, the Browns are going to be a problem. Absolutely. Let's go to the Steelers here, Bobby.
I'm probably going to be in the minority on all these, but my thought process for the Steelers is that I think Big Ben is actually the winner. I think that Harris allows them to have an semblance of a ground game. I think that he is the threat of a ground game. I think he's a good elite running back that could at least make defenses honest for the ground game because James Conner was in and out of the lineup, and I guess Benny Snell was not doing it. However, I think the biggest loser is Najee Harris because the offensive line for the Steelers is they basically lost 3 starters from last year, and they replaced them with a bunch of backups, and then they draft guys in the middle of the rounds. And I just don't see – they were dead last in the NFL in adjusted line yards in 2020, and they have done nothing to improve their line. So I just don't see how Najee Harris – because you're going to be guys are going to be taking this guy probably in the back end of the 2nd, 3rd round, and I just don't see it. So I think Najee Harris, I just don't see it as I think he's a loser based on his landing spot for 2021.
Yeah, I have Najee as my winner, of course. Why wouldn't I have Najee as my winner? Look, I'll say this about Najee Harris real quick. So I have a running back algorithm that I use to evaluate running backs before the draft. I've got 5 years worth of all the running backs coming out, and then I did a bunch of historical guys. Najee Harris is my second highest scored ever running back in this algorithm behind Saquon Barkley. I think he's a really, really good player. And in Pittsburgh, the reason he's my winner is not because he got a great line or I know the offense is starting to tank, but Mike Tomlin loves his guy. He loves a guy. This is one of the teams that still has a huge snap share for one running back. That's why I like Najee landing here, just because of the opportunity, even if it's on a bad team. Anthony McFarland's a loser. A lot of hype with his old college coach coming to town. People were starting to think, hey, maybe something here, but that's done.
I think it's Harris, and normally I'd fade bad volume running backs, but like I haven't made projections or anything yet, but like hypothetically, he's probably going to get 70 opportunities. That's exact. Jonathan Taylor had 271 opportunities. I'd imagine Harris gets that, maybe even more. That's rushing attempts plus targets. And if you slot him into the last or all the running backs since last year to get 270 plus, you'd put him right about, on average, 260 fantasy points, which would be probably the RB8 on a given year. And I get his ADP might be high, but like even if he just gets the touches, he's going to be James Robinson last year, who was obviously good for you based on the ADP you got him at. But if we were to redraft, Robinson would have been a second-round pick if we knew he was getting the touches. And that team is obviously better than the Jaguars last year, so I think he's going to be a really good pick. I think that he's going to get hype and build up his ADP, but I think there's going to be enough backlash of people making the claim of the team being bad that you'll still be able to get him at a good value. And I think the whole passing offense is the loser, hypothetically. I mean, they added a tight end for who knows what reason to be their backup. Juju came back and took less money for some reason to go to the Steelers against the Chiefs. They have way too many weapons and a quarterback that they can't get the ball to the weapons. So I think just the whole passing offense will take a step back.
Winner's Big Ben. I agree with you. I put that down too. He's got a lot of weapons at his disposal. I also put the loser as Big Ben. It'll be interesting to see what they actually do. The rest of the division is getting a whole lot better, and Big Ben has maybe one season, maybe two left in him here. And the Steelers used to run things in the North, and now I think they're on the looking up at least. So I think it's going to be tough. And if Najee Harris is D'Angelo Williams / Le'Veon Bell / James Conner, he's going to be getting 30 touches a game, and hopefully, 8 of those are catches for Big Ben, but otherwise they're going to go back to a ground and pound. But I agree with you. They don't have the offensive line to do that. Let's move over to the AFC East here. We'll go with the Bills. Lucas, why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, I mean, no really, I guess, fantasy takeaways. I guess the running backs are winners, but, I don't really know what they're winning, I guess. 15.
They didn't have many holes to fill.
Yeah, which, neither did the Chiefs last year too, though, in their own right. So I honestly don't like the draft for the Bills. I think they went a little too luxury. We'll see how it plays out, especially because their division got a lot better. I don't know. I think just stick with the pass-catching weapons in this offense. I guess maybe Gabe Davis is a winner. The 2 other receivers he's competing with are all over the age of 35 or 34, and they didn't really add anyone young enough to kind of be Gabe Davis from last year, so maybe he sees good wide receiver 2 numbers. But that being said, not much to take away from the Bills.
Dweez, why don't you go ahead?
You're on mute.
Unmuted. We're here. So, sorry, I'm an old man. Yeah. I picked the running backs here too, not because, they got better or the offensive line got better. They do pick up some new offensive linemen, but they started this draft with a couple of defensive front guys, some pass rushers, with the goal of getting off the field on third down a little more often, maybe fixing some game script stuff so that they don't have to just throw the ball all over the field. So maybe we see a little more of a run game out of this team this year just because of the way they approached the defense. I think the losers, the defensive backs, they picked up a 6th-round safety and a corner, but they needed a lot of help there, and they didn't address the defensive backfield at all, and I think that's a problem. I think the whole mindset was, hey, if we can get to the quarterback, we don't need to care about the defensive back end, but that's a mistake that has been repeated time and time again in football.
Yeah, my winner was Zach Moss, and I talk about wrote about this in one of my articles. I talked about how he started getting more and more work. So weeks 14 through 16 last year, before the Bills, week 17, they basically sat their starters. He got 3 of his 4 highest volume games of the season. So they started using him a lot more. He was at the 12, 13 carry range. If he can bring more of that consistency into this year, that offense is going to be awesome. They're bringing back all 5 offensive line starters. They got great weapons in the receiving game. So at least he'll have more work in the red zone too to score touchdowns. So I like Zach Moss. Loser, I don't really see one. I think this offense really has everything they need. They're bringing back, like I said, all 5 starters. I think it's just – I think the one thing we talk about a lot is very crowded, right? So they didn't bring in another wide receiver or a notable tight end. So at least there isn't more guys going to be vying for targets. So I think there really isn't a loser for the Bills.
Yep. Winner, Bills Mafia, just team getting better, and the running backs. Loser, again, AFC East, just because the best team in the division just reloaded, and I think they're going to be just fine. Let's move on to the Dolphins here. And Lucas, why don't you kick us off?
Honestly, I don't even know if there is a winner. And I think it's from the standpoint of I just don't think Tua is good enough to carry this offense. Waddle's cool and all. I'd say if it was the right pick or not, if you will. But, like, this offense is a bunch of receivers that I think, like, can be good, and there's not one that really is good. Like, you're getting Will Fuller for 13 games because he has a service suspension plus a bye week. And honestly, 13 is if he plays every game. Waddle is good. I think he has work to do, and who knows if the team will use him right. And then Parker's kind of had ups and downs. So this offense, I think, is just a little bland, if you will. I guess Gaskin's probably the winner because they didn't draft a running back. But his ADP is going to go up to like round, honestly, 5, maybe 4 come draft time. So who knows? It's really even a good pick. Loser, same reasoning, I guess. I just don't think anything really moved for this team, and honestly, I think that's kind of a bad thing for a team that needed a lot more movement than they got.
Dweez?
Yeah, I like Gaskin as a winner here. I like Waddle as a winner, not for football reasons, but because he forever gets to tell Devonta Smith that he was drafted before him, and that he's going to get paid more than him out of the gates, which shouldn't have happened, but it did. The loser has to be for me Will Fuller, because Jalen Waddle is Will Fuller.
Yeah.
Or is Will Fuller Jalen Waddle?
Like what? They're the same.
Here.
They're the same man, and he was picked at the 106. Like, how demoralizing is that? If you're Will Fuller, sure, you're going to miss some time, but like, you go draft my clone. Like, why?
And he does a
younger, sexier version of me. Come on.
And a former teammate. I mean, they have that connection as well.
All right.
Bobby?
You know, I'm going to tell you. So the one thing I got to say is I did a bad job in the beginning. Is not under. There's 2021, and then there's like dynasty and all that stuff. Like, listen, Will Fuller's on a 1-year contract, so technically Waddle long term is probably going to look a lot better. For 2021, I think Myles Gaskin is the winner. I mean, last year in the 10 games he played, he averaged 14.8 points per game and half-point PPR. So that's a rock solid. That was RB11 in points per game. So, you know, I think obviously he's a good low-end RB2. I think there is a lot more passing game weapons, so that could be a problem. I think the loser for this year is all the pass catchers, because last year Tua averaged 29 passing attempts per game. That's a small piece of the pie, and that's got to go to 3 good receivers and Mike Gesicki, and I just don't see enough to go around for everyone to be, you know, really fantasy relevant.
There we go. Tua is my winner just because he was able to get another weapon there. Hunter Long, I think, is going to help a lot as well, which is going to hurt Mike Gesicki. So he is my loser here with the Dolphins. Let's go to the Patriots here. Lucas, kick us off.
From a fantasy point or perspective, a winner, no one. I honestly, my boy Edelman's not there anymore.
Kendrick Bourne, dude. Come on.
We're an hour and a half in, bro. Just like, you know what, forget everyone sucks. We're done.
I don't even know, because like this team made honestly every single move pushing to run the ball more. Like, and it kind of is what it is. Like, I mean, they took a fullback he's actually listed as a fullback on NFL Network or NFL.com. Like, that was kind of like his thing. They drafted O-line. They took defense. They took a quarterback that like probably won't air it out, and they still have Cam Newton. So like, I don't know, maybe you just get Cam Newton at a discount or Mac Jones at a discount, but there's not going to be really any fantasy value.
Nobody.
Less than there was last year. The Stevenson pick has to mean bad things for all the running backs in terms of splitting the backfield, so I'm just going to kind of stay away. from here. And the tight end situation, I don't even want to project at this current point anyway. So,
Dweez?
Stevenson is trash. I said my winner would be not for fantasy purposes, but for real football life, every single person that will get a passing target on this team this year, because it doesn't have to come from Cam Newton anymore. And Cam Newton's the loser. I mean, Mac Jones is he, what they said about him. He's the guy that's ready to go right now in an NFL pro offense. Granted, in New England, they have maybe the most complex offense in the entire league. We'll see how quickly he can learn it, but there's no reason to believe he's not the starter day one. So Cam loses. Everybody that's going to get a pass thrown their way wins, but nobody wins for fantasy purposes at all.
Bobby?
Yeah, it's unfortunate because like Cam Newton was someone I was looking at for fantasy, but now you can't trust it. What's the point of wasting a late round pick on him if he might be done in 8 games, especially if they're not winning? So I agree with Dweez on that. He's a loser 100%. And I do agree with the sense that I did ask this question to you, Sky, yesterday or 2 days ago, and you said that you don't think it really improves. But do we really think if Mac Jones is the starter, I think it does improve everybody because you're actually getting some, pocket passer. The targets are going to go up. Cam Newton attempted not even 400 passes last year.
Yeah.
So any more volume would be a good thing. So I think that everyone is a winner if it is Mac Jones and he gets 16 or 17 games.
Yep, and we're all saying the same thing. Winner, pass catchers, loser, Cam Newton. I agree. Let's go to the Jets here. Lucas, go ahead and kick us off, then we'll move on to the next division.
Yep, I think their first 4 picks were pretty good. I guess it only took 2 Niners coaches to do that. That being said, I think they were almost drafted the best player at every pick that was available. Like it should have been Trey Lance or Fields. It should have been Darisaw. Should have been Marshall. Probably should have been Javonte. Obviously, Javonte went earlier. But, they made good strides. I think the winner – the franchise, they might get 6 wins this year. Maybe we'll see. I think the picks made the fantasy value harder to tell because now you kind of insert Elijah Moore. They're still going to use Crowder. I think that hurts Corey Davis. Michael Carter is there with Tevin Coleman, and ideally you want to give Michael Carter, 65% of the backfield, but then it's too good to be true if he's actually getting that many touches. So you kind of have to adjust back on it. In terms of projecting the backfield. So we'll kind of see if they add anyone in the backfield. But Carter, I think, will be probably the best pick on this team for fantasy. And I guess Chris Herndon, if he's coming back, they didn't draft a tight end. We'll see if he can make his 7th-year breakout happen this year. So,
Dweez?
I think the winner for me is Jets fans because there was a lot of excitement built in the offseason with the new hires, the new coaches, all that stuff. And then in this draft, they went out and just drafted electricity. Up and down, right? Zach Wilson is going to be an electric quarterback. Vera Tucker, electric on the field. Elijah Moore is an electric receiver, and Michael Carter, an electric running back who, we'll see how much he's on the field. But they went and drafted electricity that's going to put asses in the seats, right? People are going to turn on these games and not turn them off, which hasn't happened for the Jets in a long time. The loser, and this is sort of a personal take, I guess, I was a big fan of LaMichael Pirine coming out last year. Once Bell left, you thought maybe, but then Ty Johnson comes in. Then in the offseason, Tevin Coleman comes in. Now in the draft, Michael Carter comes in. It's going to be a committee. All of them are going to touch the ball, but LaMichael Pirine, he never got a fair shake as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I think my winner is Chris Herndon. I think this offense has been very conducive for tight ends for years. I mean, look at George Kittle, Fred Davis, Chris Cooley, Owen Daniels back in the day. This Shanahan offense produces a lot of good tight end ones. So I think Chris Herndon, the fact that they didn't go get anybody is just an indication at least he's probably going to start. My loser is Denzel Mims, just because he wasn't one of their guys, right? So they brought in more. They brought in Corey Davis. They brought in Keelan Cole even for a slot role too. So, just ridiculousness, but it's an overcrowding at the receiver position. I think Denzel Mims to me, obviously he's a bigger guy and those guys are more interior receivers, but at the same time, I think it's definitely looking bleak for his target volume for the Jets.
Yeah, Dweez, I literally wrote down Jets fans also as my winner. I totally agree with you. The Stoke in New York is fresh. They've had it on the Giants side for quite a while with some down seasons here and there, but got to some Super Bowls, beat Brady, the whole thing. The Jets have just been stomped on forever outside of 2 accidental AFC championship games, but they couldn't make that happen. So that's huge. And one thing that's interesting, because they are getting the 49ers offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator, who is now Robert Saleh, who's the head coach, is they drafted offense first to move the ball, to pick up points, to compete in games. And then the entire back half of the draft, safety, cornerback, defensive tackle, they're getting depth, and they have a nice young offensive line, nice young defensive line. Repairing that secondary, I think, is going to be great. So again, the Jets and the Bengals are not going to be anybody for 2 or 3, 4 years, maybe 5 years from now, though. They could be the Browns, and they turn that ship over, which is going to be very exciting for the NFL. All right, boys, 2 more divisions. Again, we're marathoning it, but let's get through it here. We'll go with the Broncos. Lucas, we got to pick up with you, buddy. How'd your Broncos do?
Well, they did not take Justin Fields. I don't know. I guess it could be because they're getting Rodgers. I also stand by the fact that like Fields isn't making us beat the Chiefs, and Rodgers would. I kind of heard that take, and I do kind of agree because there was some concerns with Fields' ability to take pressure, which is true if you look at the stats, look at the film. But that being said, I mean, Javonte is probably going to be one of the best values in rookie drafts this year, just because he will be the starter next year. They jumped the Dolphins because the Dolphins were going to take him. They came out and saying they had one meeting with Javonte the whole offseason, so they didn't plan on taking him. So he will be Melvin Gordon's replacement next year. But that being said, just from an overall draft, it sounds like they had a really – I don't know anything about these safeties or guard or linebacker they got, but it sounds like they had a good draft. But that being said, Teddy Bridgewater and his 2 gloves are not leading us to victory unless we get a different quarterback this coming year.
Oof, not a stoked Broncos fan. Bobby, why don't you go second in this one?
Yeah, my winner, I was going to say Teddy B just because he still has a job. That's good news.
Exactly.
So that to
job.
me is
yeah.
And well, the thing is too, I mean, the offense is loaded. I mean, Noah Fant, Cortland Sutton, you don't need to miss Jerry Judy. I mean, Teddy B did support 3 top 25 wide receivers last year. So I mean, hey, at least there's something there. At least, I mean, it's not going to look great, but my loser is Melvin Gordon, just because Williams is coming in. I think obviously if they didn't draft a running back high, he was going to be a true bell cow. I still think for this year he's going to be fine, but I think Williams, especially for dynasty, is a great call. He's going to be very undervalued this year.
My winner is the Broncos defense, already very good. They got Patrick Surtain, who in my opinion is the top cornerback. I know Lucas wasn't stoked on this because he wanted some offensive power, maybe a cornerback, but I think it's 3 of the 5 current cornerbacks on the roster for the Broncos are not under contract through next year. So they're going to clean house, and you still have this kid coming in to patch the hole. So I think that was a smart football move. Not great for fantasy, but smart there. And then my loser is my boy Royce Freeman. I know nobody cares about him. Nobody knows about him. He's a duck. I'm a duck. The dude was absolutely on fire. Led the nation in rushing when he was here in Eugene. I just don't understand why this kid never got a legitimate chance. Phillip Lindsay was excellent. Melvin Gordon's Melvin Gordon, but just kind of bummed that Royce Freeman just isn't going to pan out in the NFL, and he's one more season away from just complete irrelevance with age and everything else. So let's move on here to the Kansas City Chiefs. Not many holes to fill here, but Lucas, I'll have you kick off the rest of this division. How'd the Chiefs do, winner and loser?
Yeah, I mean, winner, you just stack the big 3. Obviously, it's not realistic to actually do that, but they just their value seems to never go down ever, and people still think it's always going to happen. I mean, their wide receiver 2 is actually McCole Hardman, and they probably put the worst restricted free agent tender probably going to be in NFL history. Byron Pringle got a 2nd-round tender. That's how bad it was. Like that's how they knew their wide receivers were bad, and like people could be like, well, why didn't they draft one? Because 2 first-round picks, almost top 20 players on the board for people, fell to them in their 2nd-round picks, and Nick Bolton and Creed Humphrey. So I'm excited for this team. My main dynasty league, I stacked the big 3, and they took their only deficit in O-line and now probably have the deepest O-line in the league. So I think just from a team perspective, they're sitting. I mean, they weren't going much worse than 1.5 ranked in the AFC, but they're right back to where they were. Travis Kelce will still be the best pick in fantasy, even if he goes to like 108. He'll still be a good pick. People are still fading.
Bobby,
mine's Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I mean, what they did this offseason to that offensive line is just fantastic now. And Lucas just hit it on the head with Creed Humphrey. Just more depth but they brought in some good freaking
Yeah,
linemen,
they did.
like Joe Thuney and Orlando Brown. Like, these are guys are like legit. So I think Clyde is now going to be a value this year. Last year he got overdrafted in the first round. This year he'll be a value. I saw he was going in like the third round, which is insane. So I think him and a Patrick Mahomes-led offense is definitely a winner. I don't really have a loser because they didn't go out and draft any like elite wide receiver or tight end. So even that number 2 pass catching role could be another winner. We don't know who it's going to be, Robinson or Pringle or Hardman. Whoever wins could be a fringe wide receiver for this year.
Tweezy.
Yeah, you guys both, my winner, you both mentioned his name. It's Creed Humphreys, the winner on this team for me. You know, probably wasn't the best center in the class coming out. Solid for sure, but he's the one that gets to start in Kansas City because Austin Blythe is not a starting center for this team this year. That's just not happening. He's my winner. The loser's probably that defensive backfield again. They didn't address the holes that they have at DB. They really needed to clean that up. But if anybody's got the offense to not give a shit about the back end of their defense.
Yeah, clearly they don't, and it hasn't mattered for the last 3 seasons.
Right.
They're a couple of plays away from winning the last 3 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
So I agree with you there. Winner Mahomes, just, you know, team's getting better, didn't make any drastic changes. And really the offensive line for the Chiefs, which started the offseason, they lost the Super Bowl because they didn't have a steady offensive line. They immediately fixed that. And that is going to be huge. It goes under the radar here with draft talk, but that was massive. I like the CEH call, Bobby, as well, getting overdrafted last year and possibly underdrafted this year as well. All right, let's go to the Chargers here. Lucas, kick it off.
Honestly,
Winner or
probably
loser?
the second best draft, I would probably say, from a ranking standpoint. They got, I mean, I don't ADP's not real in the draft, but he should not have gone at 13 in Rashawn Slater. Asante Samuel was mocked in the first round. Palmer's a freaking burner, and McKitty is huge at tight end. From fantasy, I mean, this boost up Herbert, boost up Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen's still going. I don't even in Dynasty League. Someone sent me a screenshot. It was like the 5th round. Obviously, he's like 28, but he's going to get the 3rd most targets in the league. So bump him up. Honestly, Austin Eckler kind of does. I know Larry Roundtree, some people like, but he's a 6th round pick. But overall, this team just takes a massive step forward. If their defense can stay healthy, they'll be on the board for about 10 wins, I think. So I'm excited that they fixed the O-line because Herbert's going to – I mean, he could put up even more numbers than he did last year with this offense.
Giddy up, baby. Bobby?
Yeah, same argument for Austin Eckler as I did for Clyde. They did some great work on the offensive line. They brought in Corey Linsley, then they brought in Slater in the draft. I love it. And I think Austin Eckler is going to be – and we talked about this too. Joe Lombardi just loves targeting his running backs like crazy. We saw it with Kamara for years. Even his time with Detroit when he was the OC, it was ridiculous. They had like Theo Riddick almost had 100 targets. So I think Austin Eckler, PPR, I think he could be a borderline 1st round pick. I think the loser is going to be the secondary wide receivers like the Mike Williams, the Jalen Guytons. If you had any hope for those guys to maybe take a step or emerge and take more targets, it's just not going to happen. I just don't see it. Taking the 3rd round draft capital on a guy is pretty high. So I don't know if this coaching staff is necessarily high in Mike Williams and Jalen Guyton.
Dweez?
Yeah, Herbert's a winner. Protection there's solid. Some pass caps. I like Josh Palmer. I think he's going to absolutely compete to get on the field. And look, Herbert's going to throw 658 passes this year. He's going to throw the shit out of the ball. And the draft help make that reality. It's going to turn that reality translated into a lot of wins.
So what do they call what do they call the sophomore of the year? Is that an award? Can you
the NFL MVP usually?
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, that's what's up.
Yeah.
All right. Justin Herbert is my winner as well. I'm extremely biased, but I think since all you guys agree with me, I'll stay with that one. Brian Bulaga as well, who was all pro in Green Bay forever, is also on this offensive line. He was beat up last year, but he comes back as well. The Chargers, who were very good last year, they lost, what was it, something stupid, like 9 games by less than a touchdown.
It was 7.
It was 7.
Yeah.
7 games by less than a touchdown. Justin Herbert and the Chargers should have beat the Chiefs in his opening game there. So we'll see what happens. And my loser, again, Raiders and Broncos, because the Chiefs are the Chiefs and the Chargers, in my opinion, no offense, Lucas, I love you, buddy, but it's Chiefs, Chargers, big gap Broncos, bigger gap Raiders in that division. All right, let's get to those Raiders who did not draft any skill players. They go with Alex Leatherwood, who I'm sure is a great guy and probably a great offensive tackle, but like the 12th on the board, they pick him too early at 17 here. No real fantasy relevance here. How do we feel about the Raiders? Lucas, go ahead. Winners and losers.
Yeah, I mean, they had the most Raiders draft of all time, confirming the John Gruden take that will never go away because he's still under contract for like 5 more years.
Like 7, dude.
Winners,
We got a while.
honestly, like winners, I'm saying no one because like you could make a case for Ruggs or Waller or Jacob. Like they're just bad. Like it's like it is like it is. That is not. They don't maximize the talent they have outside of Waller because Waller is a receiver playing tight ends. Like of course he's going to be more athletic than these guys. So like actually no one. I guess we'll see if Ruggs can bounce back. Possibly Derek Carr because they said they were looking at quarterbacks. I guess and they didn't draft one. But losers. I mean the ADP of all these guys. Don't buy into any falling ADP of any Raiders. Is Mariota still there? I don't know. Is he still there?
Yeah, the starting quarterback is still there.
Okay, maybe you just take Mariota, I guess, in like some deep leagues. I mean, the one game he played last year was pretty cool. But outside of that, this team, they're going to be the next Texans because they're not going to have any picks and they're going to be like 3 wins the next couple of years.
God, wait till Mariota goes to Denver next year and just lights up the league. Anyway, Bobby, go ahead.
My winner, I think I might be in the minority. I think John Brown, to me, is someone that's a winner because, Henry Ruggs and Bryan Edwards, we might like them as prospects, but they have not proven anything yet. Nelson Aguilar was the wide receiver 30 last year, and John Brown, I think, was a better receiver than Nelson Aguilar before last season. I think everyone would have agreed. And 2 years ago in 2019, as de facto number 1, he was a top 24 wide receiver for the Bills. So he's proven that he could be a low-end wide receiver too. So without the draft capital or offseason additions, I think he could be someone to monitor, especially as a last-round pick. Losers, Josh Jacobs. I mean, they just did. They lost so much on the line, and then it's nice that they took this kid. I don't know how good he's going to be, but it's just they haven't done enough to replace the guys they lost, like Rodney Hudson and Gabe Jackson. Like they just don't care. And then you add in Kenyon Drake. I just think Josh Jacobs continues to lose.
Am I reading this correctly? I have, we have the draft board of each team in front of us. Am I reading this correctly for the Raiders? They picked 3 safeties in this draft.
Yeah, and they already have like 3 starting safeties they rotate. It's literally I think they have a board and they just like randomly throw a number on the board and just pick whoever's there. Like it's so bad.
All right, Dweez.
So I guess nobody read the news that popped out that said Aaron Rodgers is very intrigued by what the Raiders are offering.
Oh my God, we're gonna spend another hour on this if you unleash this cage, bro. Why would he do that? They're not ready to win even with him.
Who knows? I want to talk to John Brown just for a second. I love John Brown, but the reason he had to leave Arizona is because the dry heat exacerbated his sickle cell. He went right back to the dry heat in Las Vegas. He couldn't play
in Arizona. Legit.
He didn't travel with the team for a third of the season every year, at least because of it. So I'm concerned about that. My winner here, look, I said the run game, not because they drafted pieces to help this run game, but when they go out and draft Leatherwood where they drafted him, I think what they're saying as a team is we just want to be bigger than everybody else up front and run the ball all day. And that's it. So I think they're tipping their hand at what the play card is going to look like. And for the same reason, the same guy anyway, Carr has to be the loser because Leatherwood can't pass block for shit. Like I weigh 160 pounds. I could probably pass block about as well as this kid can. But it's the Raiders. Stay the hell away. Gruden's the worst coach in the NFL.
Oh man, yeah, it's really
is Adam Gase still in the NFL? Wait,
no,
I don't think so.
Of course not.
Gruden's the worst coach.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. I will say this Trevor Moehrig pick here in the second round, not fantasy relevant at all, but I love this kid. I really wish he ended up on Indianapolis and Tennessee is where I mocked him. I just thought it would have been a better fit, but nonetheless, Raiders are a joke. I did say Derek Carr because they have no offensive line and he's going to have to throw the ball down the field to his burners the entire game. And the losers, Jacobs and Drake, because even if they want to run the ball all day long, they're not going to be able to. And guess what? If Teddy Two Gloves and this offense puts up at least, let's give him 24 points a game. That's fair. And Herbert's putting up 35 a game and Mahomes is putting up 40. You're not going to be able to win games 10-7 like the Raiders think they can and bully their way with no defense and a terrible offensive line. I'm so tired of the Raiders. We're moving on. Sorry, I'm all fired up. We're 4 hours into this podcast and I'm starting to sweat.
It's tomorrow for me already.
Let's go, tomorrow.
Boys.
Dweez, happy Tuesday, man. Thank you for joining us on this early morning. All right, we got 4 teams left, boys. Let's crush it out here. Texans, kick it off. Dweez, I'll let you go first.
I got Nico Collins as my winner. He's moving up my board. I get that this team is going to be real rough without a quarterback, but it was one of the best wide receiver landing spots coming into this. For Dynasty, in a couple of years when the quarterback situation is under control, I think he's going to be in a position that he might be able to capitalize. And he's a good receiver, played here in Michigan. He's a good receiver. He's got the physical tools. He's never had a quarterback to throw it to him. He's Allen Robinson of college football. So we'll see what happens. Losers, nothing. I mean, they didn't do anything wrong in this draft.
There isn't much.
They didn't pick until the 3rd round, for Christ's sakes. It's not really killing anybody, but.
Lucas, why don't you go second?
Winners. I mean, kind of Davis Mills. Like, I don't know nothing about him, but
I like Davis Mills. Shouts out Stanford.
They wouldn't have picked that if he wasn't going to start 10 games for him, right? Like
Tyrod Taylor.
Well, yeah, but that worked out well for him last year. I don't know.
Hey, no one's going to puncture his lung. All right, he might not get a lung puncture this year.
Better team doctors.
Do we trust the Texans staff to do any better? I don't know. I mean, I think Mills, if you can get him, he'll probably have an Eason ADP in Superflex rookie drafts and take that every single time, because if it hits one time, you're super profitable. Outside of that, just bet him to have the number 1 pick whenever the lines come out and kind of leave it at that, because this team – it's going to be bad. It's going to be the team where you play DFS players against them every week. Every single week, guys mentioning how many points they allow to receivers. It's kind of what it's going to be, because they're going to be pretty bad.
Bobby?
It depends, I guess. If the Deshaun Watson situation is just making this whole, giant question mark. But I think my winner was Brandon Cooks, just because, they haven't really brought – I know they spent a 3rd-round pick on a receiver, but at the same time, they don't really have much. And I think if it's Tyrod Taylor – I talked about this previously. I mean, Tyrod Taylor, for what it's worth, with Jarvis Landry, he had some decent – the 2 games that he really played with the Browns, he had 7 for 105 and 5 for 69. So, I mean, that – Cooks is probably going to start falling into the double-digit rounds. I could see taking him, because why not take the upside? And what if Watson does play? Then great. Loser, from the draft, there is nobody. I mean, this team is already a mosh posh of just complete crap. So I don't think anybody lost anything more. It's already at the bottom.
My winner is Brandon Cooks as well. Just for fun, I'm not going to list all the names because it'll make some of you nauseous, and it's getting late. I don't want to do that. Just for fun, listeners, go look up the depth chart of the running backs and the wide receivers on the Houston Texans and think to yourself, damn, Dante Moncrief was really good in 2012. I hope he pans out again this year. My losers are the Texans fans and Deshaun Watson if he does play, because this team's not any better. I will say a sneak attack dynasty, keep an ear out for this kid, because I like the potential. Brevin Jordan pick in the 5th round, I just think is awesome. In this offense, usually they use the tight end a lot. He is far more athletic than anybody else on the team right now at tight end, so keep an eye there. All right, let's move on to the Colts.
Yeah. Game script is the winner here. Two solid pass rushers to start this thing off, again, to get off the field on 3rd down. And that's a win for everybody on the offensive side of the ball if the game script's going their way. Losers, I put in here the 2022 Carson Wentz is a loser. I wanted them to address Hilton's pending absence. They didn't really do anything at wide receiver. The other young guys kind of struggled. We'll see if Paris Campbell can come back and be what he was in game 1 last year. But I would have liked to see them go out and get themselves another wide receiver to compete.
Lucas?
Yeah, I mean, Ballard started off the draft like he always does, really good. They didn't have a 3rd-round pick. I think that would have been the sweet spot for receiver. Yeah. I don't remember if they traded back or they just didn't have one. But, I mean, the first 2 picks were incredible. Those 2 rushing off the side with Buckner and Darius Leonard is going to be pretty scary. But that being said, I mean, I don't really know where the fantasy value is. I mean, I think this means good things for Michael Pittman. Shockingly to me, honestly, Paris Campbell's kind of a question mark. Hilton's pretty old. They must have a lot of faith in him to kind of project forward for this season. So maybe he's kind of undervalued just based off the moves we've seen this offseason. But the Colts will be back in the 9 to 10 win category like they always are.
Yeah, my winner's T.Y. Hilton. When I was looking this up, I thought it was going to be Michael Pittman. When I was doing the research on the Colts, it was actually Hilton quietly was the wide receiver 14 the final 8 weeks of the season. You wouldn't think that, but he was. He was averaging 12.3 points per game, and he started to find his legs again. He started getting a little healthy. I know he's an injury risk, but you're not going to have to take any draft capital on him. I don't think anybody's taking him in the top 6-7 rounds next year. So I think Hilton, because of the 10th. Yeah, maybe. I'm just saying, I think because of his draft capital, I think he's a winner without any true investment at the receiver position. I don't think there's any losers. I think, Carson Wentz coming over, I just don't think that from the draft there was any losers for the Colts.
My winner, Jonathan Taylor, similar to the Nick Chubb situation. This defense just got better. This defensive line just got better. They're going to be blowing out the Jags. They're going to be blowing out the Texans at least. And I think they're just going to be able to chew up clock. That's going to be great for Jonathan Taylor. That's not Naheem Hines time. Marlon Mack won't hold up with the Achilles IMO. So I like Jonathan Taylor here as the winner. And then Jacob Eason, who, again, is a deeper name, but dynasty leagues, like I think a lot of people were looking forward to his opportunity with Phillip Rivers on the way out. They bring in Carson Wentz, and they bring in Sam Ehlinger, I believe. Correct? Yeah. So Jacob Eason, again, just a super deep dynasty, like super flex name, but somebody I think a lot of people were fired up for and to get the opportunity and just not going to in Indianapolis. Okay, boys, two more. Go ahead.
One last thing, though. The loser could be the line because they didn't find a replacement for Anthony Costanzo. So they brought in like Sam Tevy in the offseason, which is not good. So I think that could be a slight thing to the offense without Anthony Costanzo.
Good catch. Let's go with the Jags here. Of course, they get the number 1 overall pick in Trevor Lawrence. How about the rest of it, though, Lucas? Winner and loser for the Jags?
Yeah, I mean, winner, the team, I guess. I don't know. I think the ETN pick was kind of a luxury pick, and I think it's going to backfire on him a little bit because they're not going to just throw away James Robinson. I get that he had no draft capital, but like they literally made it clear that they're not doing that. And then ETN just honestly ruins a lot of the pass catcher's ability just because he will be using the passing game. So maybe it just creates more of a floor for Trevor Lawrence like we saw with Burrow last year just due to the available weapons. But I don't think there's much fantasy value here. Unless ETN's ADP comes out as like a round 4 ADP. Besides that, I think it's kind of just cut and dry for the most part.
Luis?
This is the second time I said this, but I think it's the fans on this team that are winner because I think this is going to get really exciting this year. Urban Meyer's offense was already set to get exciting. We got some, again, electric players. So it's going to be a fun team to watch, I think. Loser, yes, it's James Robinson. Now, I swear I said this somewhere. I don't know. I thought I said it on our coaching show, Bobby. I went and watched the whole tape. I didn't. I swear I said this somewhere. I said Urban Meyer was not going to like James Robinson. He's not going to fit the running back mold that he wants. So he was going to go do something about it, and it was going to piss people off in fantasy. I don't know where I said it. Maybe I didn't. Let's pretend like I did because it happened. Etienne absolutely will be the starter on this team by week 10, and he'll be getting 60% of the snaps. Etienne is way better than you think he is. I don't care how good you think Travis Etienne is. He is far better than that, and he's going to show his ass and win this job.
I like it. Yeah, I think the obvious loser is James Robinson. I don't need to go into any further, but if they didn't draft a running back, we'd be talking about him as a top, 3rd, 4th round pick, and now we're not going to touch him. So just for that, I think the winner is Laviska Shenault. I think Shenault, they didn't draft any wide receivers. He's probably going to be their slot guy, which I like. Marvin Jones, Chark on the outside. That's something that's going to help diversify him. He actually was a little bit better from a yards per route run perspective last year from the slot. So I think him kicking inside is something that will really help him get away from press coverage. He'll be against weaker corners. So I think Laviska Shenault is actually my winner for the Jags.
My winner, Dweez, I'm kind of with you. I'm going to go off script here a little bit. Dynasty players are the winner here. Trevor Lawrence for, let's hope, 20 years. Travis Etienne, let's hope 5 to 6, whatever. Going to be a fun scat back. And I think just Urban Meyer offenses, as long as they're winning and he stays in the NFL, I think will be at least fun to watch. My loser, James Robinson, that's the easy one. Quick note on the Travis Etienne and Urban Meyer. I heard an interview with Urban Meyer post-draft, and he straight up wanted Kadarius Toney, which makes sense. He's the quote-unquote Percy Harvin. I had been saying that in mock drafts. He wants the Percy Harvin he had in Florida. It was going to be Kadarius Toney. He was no longer available once they went up, and they went. So they actually traded back up into the second round and ended up getting Travis Etienne there to be the scat back, and he came out after the draft and said it's going to be James Robinson on first and second downs, Carlos Hyde to spell him, and Travis Etienne as a third down back. Now, in fantasy circles, you don't like that. What I hear, though, is what you guys are saying, which is James Robinson was fun. He won people leagues last year as a rookie, ran for 1,000 yards, and he was a great story off the bench, unless you listened to Dweez early last season and actually drafted the guy. But what it says to me is that Travis Etienne is going to be the pass catcher, very good. And there's some loose comps. Again, I want to be careful with some of these names that we compare rookies to. But if he's 75% Alvin Kamara, you want him on your fantasy team. And that is a comp out of the backfield. So I think Travis Etienne in this role eventually by maybe Halloween or the second month is going to be a problem for opposing defenses. Okay, boys, we're about there. We have one team left. Let's get it in. The Tennessee Football Titans. Kick us off.
Which one of us? Come on, man.
I'll go.
Which guy?
Who's been going first every time? We have the routine. Is it really 2 hours in?
AJ Brown right now, wide receiver 1. Lock it in. It's going to happen.
Why?
I love it.
I saw you say that. Why?
He was 12th in targets per game total, and he was 26. Or no, I said that wrong. Wait, let me do. Oh, I just had the besides the point. He had like 100 and some targets in 14 games. They had 96 vacated targets in Corey Davis, and they filled it with Josh Reynolds. If you want to go ahead and project Josh Reynolds for around 96 targets, I don't even
Fire me up some Josh Reynolds.
224 targets available from last year. 224 overall. It's crazy.
Why do we think they're all going to go to this guy?
Well,
I don't get it.
They're obviously not going to go after him, but like,
Berkshire?
I mean, if you're gonna split them 3 ways between Dez Fitzpatrick, Josh Reynolds, and Ferkser, I mean, go for it, I guess. But like, they're not going to Derrick Henry. They would have gone to Derrick Henry last year if they were going to go to him this year. So
that'd be interesting.
It might be just a landmine waiting to happen. But like, this guy is the best of the ball in his hands in the league. He's in line for 140, 150 targets, and his efficiency is off the charts. But this team in general had a really good draft. Farley falling value, Radens falling value. A lot of people like Elijah Molden. I don't know about the whole Dez Fitzpatrick thing in the 4th round. There was a couple other receivers there, but this team's going to be pretty good. I guess they roll in with Josh Reynolds as their wide receiver too. I couldn't imagine they do that, but I don't really know like who's there for free agent wide receivers anyways.
It's like slot guys. It's like Golden Tate, Larry Fitz. Like those slot receivers.
Dweez, I see you bubbling there. Go ahead.
Josh Reynolds is at least as good at wide receiver as Corey Davis is. And, you know,
I agree.
Say what you will. That shit is legit.
I agree.
Josh Reynolds is a legit wide receiver. And Corey Davis is fine too, right? It's not like Corey Davis was a stud. He should have been, I guess, coming out of college. He should have been. But he wasn't a stud wide receiver last year. They just threw him the ball a lot on the same route, on the same like 3-yard inside slant route. So, yeah. I think Josh Reynolds.
I got my stats now. I pulled it. Okay, he was 12th in fantasy points per game and 26th in targets per game. That's the stat.
Yep.
So his targets are going to go up. Fantasy points are going to go up.
He'll go up to 23rd in targets per game. That's it.
I don't know. I mean, like, okay, you break it down the numbers. Corey Davis, 92 targets. Johnny Smith, 65. Ferkser had 53 in his own right. And if we're going to project Ferkser for 80 targets, he better be a top 8 tight end. Humphreys is on.
Let's turn Bobby loose on Ferkser real quick.
You're getting me hot with Ferkser right now.
If you're getting 80 targets in like the 5th most efficient offense in the NFL, like he has to be a top 8 tight end. Henry's not getting more than 30 targets. If he is, he's the running back too. After that, like it's pretty nothing. Like it's like 15.
All right. Well, we're long in the tooth, long in about 3 teeth right now. So let's argue about Derrick Henry another time. Dweez, anything else to add, or we can go to Bobby?
No, go ahead.
No, so yeah, let's talk a little bit about Anthony Ferkser. I know this is last year, the Jonnu Smith Anthony Ferkser combination, they combined for 80 receptions, 835 yards, and 9 touchdowns. The backup tight end on the top 3. That would be the tight end 3. Now the backup tight end that replaced Jonnu Smith is Jeff Swain, whose career high is 32 targets in a season. So I just think that Anthony Ferkser is a huge winner because they have not done anything really to him. I know, and listen, I got touched on 224 vacated targets last year. So that's not going to all go to Josh Reynolds and A.J. Brown. It's good. I think Ferkser to me is great sleeper tight end one. Also, the change in coordinator. Todd Downing is probably not going to be as run heavy as Arthur Smith was. So that's another thing that could really help by you some of that pass line.
So assuming, you got a loser?
Yeah, no, I think the loser's Ryan Tannehill. I just don't think they've done enough in the offseason overall to really help support. And you can say what you want about Corey Davis, but he was one of only 6 receivers last year to have 2.5 yards per route run and over 9 yards per target in the season. So he was actually really one of the top efficient wide receivers in the NFL.
And believe it or not, Josh Reynolds is better than him. So just imagine the possibilities there. All right, so
good point.
So Anthony Ferkser gets at least 100 targets. He's going to blow up. Derrick Henry is going to get probably 60 minimum. When Julio Jones comes over to Tennessee, then what happens to A.J. Brown?
I don't even know. That'd be awesome. I mean, the losers are going to be people that fade the Titans again because they're going to lose a lot of money in their fantasy leagues, just like last year. Derrick Henry's the RB2. It's happening. Like, it's the whole thing.
All right.
Well, what do you think of Caleb Farley? I mean, this kid, I heard he got hurt a lot in college, but is he because they lost both their corners, so they brought in Janoris Jenkins, which is whatever.
I'll throw this out real quick. Caleb Farley's an absolute animal. If he didn't have back issues, he might have been the first cornerback off the board. He's got back problems. He's been fixed. He's fine. He's a beast. Another one of these kids. I watched a lot of pre-draft interviews with all these guys to get character stuff. The dude is about it. Like, he's a football dude through and through. He's a beast. Played in the ACC, so he's not like one of these SEC guys at Virginia Tech. But nonetheless, I love Caleb Farley, frankly. And when I was doing my Tennessee mock draft, I kept having a corner go there every mock draft because they gave up the second most deep throws in the NFL last year. So 20-plus yard receptions. They gave up the second most in the NFL last year, and they're not going to beat Mahomes in the championship. They're just not going to get past the Chiefs if they can't correct that, no matter how good Derrick Henry is. So Caleb Farley's a great start. I'm kind of tongue-in-cheek, but if Julio Jones does leave Atlanta, the one spot that makes sense right now is Tennessee, and his younger brother, A.J. Brown, is batting for that 100%. So shouts out to all the 11s back here behind me. All right, boys, winner, A.J. Brown, loser, everybody else playing against A.J. Brown in fantasy. That's what I got. Gentlemen, over 2 hours. Appreciate your time. On Twitter, make sure you find Dweez at Dweez Nuts, all Z's, no S's. Find Bobby Lamarco, a.k.a. Fantasy Football X Factor, at FFX Factor. You can find Lucas Kaser at Lucas Kaser 2. You can find me, Sky Guasco, on Twitter, at Sky Guasco as well. I appreciate you. If you're still tuning in, leave a rate, review, and a subscribe. You can find us on social medias. We'll be back Thursday and next week breaking down every one of these rosters. We'll be taking it a little bit slower, more condensed. We won't be doing the 2-hour vibe, but I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. This is the Candlestick Kids Fantasy Football Podcast, a rare quad box from my boys Lucas Kaser, Bobby Lamarco, and Dwayne Lynn. I am your host, Sky Guasco, and we are